It is 7 o'clock, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. The regularly scheduled council meeting on October 9th, 2019. And I'd like to recognize any visitors. Please state your name loud enough. Denisa.
David Budris.
David.
Jess Silman. Marge Womack.
Ma'am.
Oh, Janice Sabrina.
Okay. Bunny, we just recognize visitors, but I think you know, we'll be able to write there, see who they are.
What time did you call?
7 o'clock. All right. Any additions to the agenda from the council?
I would like to give just a small update on budget.
Okay, budget?
On the town square, I guess it could go under that. It would just be something to add besides the update. It would be part of the update, I guess. So.
All right. Also, we have our esteemed treasurer, Michael Cronrath here. He's not on the agenda, but we talked about it, and he's here to be on the agenda. So we're going to add him. Even though he requested to be at the bottom, I think I'm going to move him up to underneath the approval of
No,
bills.
he did not request to be at the bottom. I heard that.
So after the approval of bills.
I second it.
I have a question about the minutes from the last meeting.
We're not there yet.
Appropriate time.
Nope, not yet. We're still just doing additions to the agenda. Budget. Bunny, anything else that we...
No, there was a couple of things there, but one was, I thought this
Scott's not here.
There was a note from the railroad. This came about keys.
Okay.
There was one here for the, maybe it's in,
Railroad.
these are areas that we're deficient in.
Okay.
We have to-
So we'll have a maintenance, some kind of a maintenance update to add to it as well. All right. Next item here, approval of minutes of the prior council meeting as well as the special meeting. I know Councilmember Councilmember Davenport has a question already.
Third page, Chamber of Commerce requests help with street dance. It was called to my attention that the council did not question the $350 towards defraying expenses. What will that $350 be used for?
That went towards putting on the street dance. So printing flyers, having flyers made, the postage for mailing it out to all the alumni, and some little festivity things to put that on.
They used the
So-
Honey Bucket toilet rentals. They bought lights. So they got
Okay.
money from us.
Lions
They got
Club,
money from Lions Club, from
Altar Society.
Altar Society. So several groups the chamber was asking for help on.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yes.
So by doing it, the city council donated into a pot that went toward the street dance project.
Not the project. To put on the street dance,
To put on the street
not the
dance,
project.
okay.
Yeah.
Rather than purchasing one of the items that the dance needed. Like, we didn't go out and buy the lights and the extension cords. We just donated the money, so the city owns nothing for the $350.
The extension cords were donated, and those have been given back to the people that donated them. And the lights were also donated, and the people that paid for them, they asked to keep them back, and they are available for any event that we put on. But they paid for them. So all of those funds went to the postage, the printing, to the stuff to go to the alumni that wasn't going to be here or to get them here. That's where the postage was $355 on its own.
Yeah, I thought Harrington paid that.
The chamber paid for all of it up front, And then
No, Paula Harrington, I thought she was the one that
No.
volunteered to pay for it.
she put up a quilt to be auctioned off that night, and then it started raining, so we put the quilt inside, so we didn't. So that's what she put towards it, but she didn't print anything. We paid Parks Print and Copy Junction. I have receipts for all that stuff, but that's where most of the money went into, is for the invitations to have them made and printed, the letters to go along with tying into the project, and the postage.
Financing of it was controlled by the chamber? Is
The
that
chamber,
correct?
the chamber, at the last, not this last meeting, but the meeting before that, because it was in between meetings to get that stuff out. So the chamber said, we will just pay for it up front, and then we were already asking for some of the organizations to contribute to go towards that, and then that's when the city was also approached about it. So it was 5 or 6 different organizations with the chamber that paid for that. And we actually, with that and the raising the funds, we are over a couple $100 that is then going into the project. So that's where those funds went. It was around $800 for putting on that. The beer was donated, and the cost of having the DJ come out, he donated all of that.
Wow, that would be nice.
So we didn't. It was on the cheap, because of those 2 things. Does that answer? Yeah. Okay.
I have a correction here too. The let's see, where did it go? The graphic information systems GIS mapping. So our contract wasn't for 10,000. That's how much we budgeted for in our 2019. The contract with AWC was for $5,700, I believe.
That's the amount I paid.
Yeah, so that's the contract amount. So the contract wasn't for 10,000. That's just how much we budgeted, knowing that we, based on the extra hour, the AWC consortium tier that we chose was 5,700, knowing and then there's extra hours we could purchase up to whatever we budgeted for.
I
So
think that was the middle tier. Right?
At the rate they were, man, wicked.
$115 an hour.
I know, but I mean, as far as I thought,
How
is that
fast they
is that
did
many
it,
hours
yeah.
gonna be enough? And then Justin told me what they'd done. I was like,
I
Okay.
have a correction on page 1, the engineering update from Steve Marsh. Number 5, if successful, the 3 funding sources would provide 38% in loan money and 68% in grants, which equals 106%.
So it's 32. It's probably it's either 32 or 62. So
Now, I don't know, it was in his information that I copied that, so I'll go back and look and see.
roughly it was about 1/3 and 2/3 is what I think the general consensus was. Or the, and then also in the Department of Ecology report on the bottom, it's WWTP for
Yeah.
treatment plant. The very last sentence on the
Under just a typo, halfway down the second page, a 15-minute intermission was taken, reconvened. Is there an I in reconvened? Just strike the I.
in the French pronunciation there is.
I'm confused by my Russian. That threw me off.
Good catch.
All right.
I move the minutes be accepted as presented and corrected.
The minutes for the regular September
Regular meeting,
Yep. Okay, motion by Councilmember Davenport,
Second.
by Councilmember McClellan.
Oh, we'll have discussion?
Discussion.
There was a error in the date. Well, we'll get to it when we look at the special meeting.
Okay,
I think there's a discrepancy in date somewhere.
but this is for is that for the
Regular
special
meeting.
meeting or the regular meeting?
I thought there was a citation of a date in the regular minutes that pertain to the special meeting. I may be
September 20.
mistaken.
Oh no, that was a budget workshop.
We had a budget
Yeah.
workshop that was the only thing at that point that was, because the special meeting didn't come until after this meeting was adjourned, or, so,
Somewhere in here, there are two allusions to the special meeting.
Yeah,
One is the 23rd of September and the other is the 30th.
okay,
Those should be reconciled.
okay. We'll do a word search for the 23rd then. All right, so no further discussion. We got a motion by Councilmember Davenport, seconded by Councilmember McClellan, to accept the minutes as presented and amended. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right, 4-0. Thank you, council. Now we have our special meeting that we had on the 30th, which the only thing, this is just basically, since there was no minutes being taken inside the executive session or anything, this is just addressing the fact that it started and when it stopped. And this is on the 30th. The only,
On the 30th or the 23rd?
it was on the 30th.
It was on the 30th.
Okay.
Because the 25th was our budget workshop, which was a Wednesday.
That's what I'm
Right.
thinking of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. 30. That's 50, 560. Our math doesn't add up. So our council meeting was only 45 minutes in length from 6:10 to 6:55, but the minutes add up to 60 minutes.
Well, we went out at 6:07, it says. And then there was time to get back to where you were, so that's 6:10. And then we have 20, 30, 35, 40, 55, so I can, whatever. What do you want to say? Add 40 minutes to that 6:10?
Well,
20, 30, 35, 40.
so 60 minutes,
Do 50.
because it's 20 plus 30 is 50,
20.
and then, oh, I see, add 3 times, added 10. I was thinking you said 10 3 times, so 10.
10.
20.
added 3 times, added
Yeah,
10,
okay,
5.
that's fine. That works.
I think I found the discrepancy. It's between the minutes and the agenda. The agenda points out that the special meeting was the 23rd.
Okay.
Instead of the 25th. It says on 25th later in the down.
No, right here. This
Down
is special
here.
meeting, but should be the 30th, so it says in special meeting on September, it should be September 30th. So a motion to accept the special meeting minutes as presented by Councilmember Luck,
Second.
by Councilmember Tipton. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Great, passes 4-0. Thank you, council. All right, the approval of bills. Those, I think, came out this on your, in front of you guys when we got in tonight.
If you have questions,
So this round, you'll notice that there's a GIS. It's split up, I think, among several funds, but that's the $5,700 check to AWC. We also had a check out to Bias for the software.
For the training, yeah.
Not necessarily
Oh,
training, just the
training.
implementation and getting set up.
thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
One call concepts, line locates,
811.
Before we dig, we have to call, let them know where we're gonna dig so they can locate the line.
So the city has to pay for them to come and locate the line?
People that call in, I guess, I don't know who pays for it.
Well, we pay for it.
We pay for the notification.
So yeah, we call 811 and have them come out and spray paint the street. That costs, what, $3 or
Yeah,
something?
it's $3 a shot, I think, or something.
Huh. Because when I did it, I didn't have to pay anything.
No,
It's just for the city?
I think
The city requests it. So Scott comes in here, says, I need to dig up, we have a sewer line issue at your property. He calls 811 and they send somebody out and spray paint it, and that's the bill.
Because it's not the customer, it's not the homeowner. Okay. Gotcha.
I understand your question. You didn't have to pay as a homeowner,
Right.
but I don't know if the city must have to, because I agree. You don't have to pay as a homeowner to have those located.
Thank you.
I informed Bunny, but under current expense, about halfway down, Wolf Creek Construction. Prepayment for what he's doing on the remnant wall at the vacant lot there. It's Willis and Third, not Sherlock. And technically, it's Wolf Creek Contracting. I don't think that matters for this, though.
Willis and what again, Tim?
Willis and Third Street.
He might be doing some work on Sherlock too, but, you know.
And under current expense, 12th line down, Office Depot, what is adder tape?
Adding machine tape. They call
Adding
it adder
tape.
tape.
The
Oh,
calculator,
not, not for catching snakes.
no.
Okay.
You don't use an adder at home?
No, I don't.
That's the French pronunciation
I don't
for
learn that.
calculator.
Uh-huh. Good thing you're up on your French.
Just a couple typos under cemetery. Second page at the bottom.
Lawn.
Industries and lawn.
Councilmember Shank,
Hello.
thank you for joining us.
Glad you could come.
I'm just going over the bills right now. Okay.
I have another question under sewer.
Yep.
Department of Retirement Systems? What is that?
Our employees' retirement,
Oh.
it gets allocated between all the different funds.
Okay.
So you'll see that on several different funds. There's certain funds we pull that out of. It's just a pro rata share.
An issue, I have a question about under sewer,
Yes.
second to last line, Casey Mon.
Yes.
We've discussed this on a number of occasions, but what's the city's plan for eliminating that expense?
We'll have a conversation about that tonight,
Very good.
but that is for our contracted Group 2 operator.
And who is Inland Cellular is our cell phone provider? We're paying $100 for 2 phones. I think we can get it for less than that, save
So-
a few bucks.
Some of it, is that the full, is that the prorated share or is that the full amount?
That's the full amount.
So we have a contract agreement with the fire district that they pay us a portion of that. They reimburse us
Oh, okay.
for,
We've discussed that before.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So it is expensive here, but we do get reimbursed. That's just the cost that we have to pay. I mean, this is just the full cost. And then, Councilmember Shank, there's a stack of bills if you have any questions specifically you want to see. All right, anything else on the bills? Entertain
The bills be accepted as presented.
All right.
And corrected.
a motion by Councilmember Davenport.
I will second.
Again, Councilmember Tipton seconds. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right, great, thanks. Passes 5-0. Perfect, okay. Councilmember Shank, we had an addition here. Treasurer Cronrath's going to give us a presentation before, or right now, actually. So, Mr. Treasurer, the floor is yours.
All right, I'm going to sneak around kind of behind you. Stay right where you're at.
I don't know which one to sign.
Anyone want?
Oh, but
Is
Mike,
this where
you
the
sign the
spring
exact
is?
same one.
Not-
Oh, no, I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay.
I'm going to hand you this month's treasurer's report, and I know for 18 years while I sat on this,
I have
table. No, you don't. I just printed it out.
Okay.
That is last month's, excuse me.
Okay.
So this is the one that was completed today for this month. Yeah, this came off the copier. I apologize for all the noise and the disruptions. Apparently our little network is down. I couldn't print from the back room. And so then I had to come up front and log into Bunny's computer and print from where she's at. And so I'm causing all sorts of trouble around here. So I'm not sure. I don't know if anybody out there here. I'll turn these over. There's a couple of copies for you to look at if you'd like. Here are those. I don't know, Bunny. Does anybody else want one? We can run a couple more. Let me run a couple more real quick. Will you do that for me? We'll run a couple of copies. Thank you. I appreciate that,
When
Bunny.
you get done, I'll do
They're going to run some more copies right now.
So Bunny's going to get a couple more copies for folks. I'm not really sure how far in depth you want me to go with this, but maybe it'll help a little bit for you to understand kind of what my position entails. Essentially what happens, our fine community members come in usually daily and are paying their utility bills. They'll come in and write a check up at the front desk for their utility tax, their water, their sewer, their trash. They may pay a dog license, they'll pay a rental fee, they'll make some sort of donation to the cemetery endowment fund. They'll all that cash that comes in, all the checks that people write. I don't mean to make you nervous, I'm sorry.
I'm used to it.
Well, I'm kicking
I've been
your
around
chair the
enough
whole
years.
time. You've been around me, yeah. I poked you in class enough times, so
Nah.
just to tell you how old I am. But the folks will come in and write their checks to Bunny, and she'll receipt their money into the account, and then she makes a deposit daily. But she keeps track of what each of those funds, where that money is supposed to go. And so she'll write a deposit slip that looks like, well, it's a different color, but this is my copy of it, and it lists everybody on there. And then she breaks out that deposit daily between all of those different funds, between the utility taxes, the water, the sewer, the garbage, the hall rent, cemetery maintenance. She breaks all those out. And then she'll go deposit that money in what's called our treasurer's checking account down at the bank. And she does that daily. So then I collect these copies of these receipts from her, and I receipt that money that's sitting in that account into our separate different funds within that checking account. So the treasurer's checking account has this large dollar amount in it. It sits there at about $600,000. You'll see that down the bottom right-hand corner of the treasurer's report. Checking, it says 672, 967. But that dollar amount is broken out between utilities. In fact, all of these different funds that are listed over here on the left-hand side, those dollars are in that one account. And so I will receipt into those different breakdowns on the left-hand side where that money that has come in from the community, where it's supposed to go. And we just continue to build those receipts through the month, and at the end of the month, I've only got one copy of this. But we build this control sheet, and it's so microscopic I know you can't really see it. But each of our accounts, every receipt that I write back to Bunny for all the money that has come through, for all these different accounts, is receipted individually in here. And it's 3 pages worth. Okay? So it's all broken down into every account. And at the very end of this report, the last tiny little column, there are total dollar amounts for each, again, individual account over here on your left. And so you see in the first column the ending cash balance from the previous month. That's where we were at the end of last month, at the end of August, beginning of September. That is under beginning cash balance. So you can go down each fund and see where we started out on September 1st. Then throughout the month, we receipted into those different accounts. These are our receipts on this control sheet. They're just summarized in that second column. So you'll see there's not a whole lot of numbers there in the second column under receipts. Current expense, there were about $21,000, almost $22,000 in receipts for current expense. $9,700 for water sales, sewer sales, $15,700. Garbage, we brought in about $4,600. Street fund, there came in about $9,800. Let's see, your cemetery, there was $5,000. Capital improvement, $471. Criminal justice, $2,003. And that's all the money that's come into the city from numerous different sources. From the citizens themselves. We also see receipts from the Lincoln County Treasurer for taxes that come in. So they'll send us a check and we receipt that into that treasurer's checking account. The state treasurer will send us a check for criminal justice, for real estate excise tax, for property taxes, motor vehicle excise tax, for marijuana, liquor board. There's an individual receipt in this control sheet that I have that's huge, but down at the end of it, I can tell you the state sends us money for about, let's see, that last receipt, it's a long one. But there's about 8 or 10 things on that one receipt that come from the state, and we receipt that in, and it's all then built into these receipts that come in that second column of the report. Okay? Then the money that goes out for our bills, I know this is going to be a little bit counterintuitive, but go over 2 columns to where it says out. Okay, what you'll see there are combined IFTs for current expense, for water, for sewer. Those are the monies that are going to go out for paying our bills in those different areas. And Mrs. Haugen tells me, hey, she gives me what's called an interfund transfer request, and I go pull the money out of our treasurer's checking, and I put it into an account for her to write checks out of to pay our bills. Okay, so it comes out of treasurer's checking, that's why it says out, and goes into her APC account where she pays the bills from. That's the in column that comes before. So if you see the in column, if you go down in that in column on that report, you'll see some IFT numbers. So these are how our interfund transfers work. I'll show you that. We do what's called a distribution.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
I know right now it's a lot of numbers. I may need you to run a couple more of these, Bunny, if you would. I don't know if I got enough even for the council.
Thank you.
I'll let you look at that one.
Thank you,
The
sir.
mayor one when it comes. So this distribution says that usually about the middle of the month, we will transfer funds so that we can pay some bills. That's claims. You'll see at the top IFT number 2083. Right above it there's a little C. That tells you that that's a claims IFT. That's to pay bills. Then at the end of the month, we'll have another 2 IFTs, 2 interfund transfers, where we will do payroll. You'll see again that's IFT 2084, and right above it there's a little P that says that's for payroll. That's just to remind me, so I can keep track of which is which. Okay, so we go claims in the middle, then payroll and claims at the end. Those numbers match what are on your treasurer's report in that in column.
Did everybody at the table?
Everybody got one?
Yep.
Okay, so you should be able to match the IFT numbers in the second column, in the in column. And those numbers essentially are the sum totals. I've got them at the top and the bottom of the report so that you can see them. Okay? So we've had receipts come in. I take the money out of the treasurer's checking in an IFT, and that's the combined IFTs in the out column. They go into the APC account for her to pay bills out of. That's the in column in the second column. And then anything left that hasn't cleared the bank is in our warrants redeemer that has cleared the bank from last month. Those are IFTs from last month. I believe that on your treasurer's report, about the fourth column, IFT 2082. My eyes are getting bad.
2083 and 2081.
Okay, those are from the previous month that now have cleared the bank. They're in our bank statement. So we've gone from the first column, jumped over to third, back to 2, over to 4, and then the fifth column is miscellaneous expenses like some bank charges, things like that we have to clear up, and finally we end up at ending cash. So you could bounce your arrows across the top back and forth if you want, but that's kind of how the report has to work. And we wind up at ending cash, and that shows you where we are in each of those accounts at the end of the month, not including any investments. Because that's the last little area is just investments. And then finally our final balances in each account is the far end. And then I balance out down in the bottom right hand corner to make sure that what the bank says we have and what's come in and out and moved back and forth and jumbled around and gone out in checks and come in receipts and everything else should balance up. And every month it luckily has. So understand that in essence we operate, technically we operate 3 bank accounts with US Bank. We have the treasurer's checking account, which is the $600 and some odd $1,000 there. We have the APC account, which is where the city clerk pays its accounts, payroll and claims. Okay, and remember, payroll is obvious. That's obvious. We know what that is. But claims are claims against the city for bills that we have to pay. So there's the 2 accounts, treasurer's checking and APC. Then there is the money market, and I spoke to you about that one last month where I'd like to get rid of that one. I'd like to just move that money into the Washington State investment pool. And we're still figuring all that out and getting authorizations for who to sign on to it. But I want to get that money moved out of there. So that just kind of sits there every month, that $183,000. It earns right now, last month, on this report, $1.50 interest on $183,000. And we distribute that $1.50. I have a worksheet that I go through. We finally set up a nice spreadsheet where I type in the $1.50, I type in the balance, and it distributes it all by percentage, and I receipt those pennies into each account. On the control sheet there is a receipt for, in fact, current expense loses 22 cents, and sewer gets 10 cents, and cemetery maintenance gets 35 cents, and I write out a full receipt for those pennies so that everything comes out the way it's supposed to, because we have this one account that earns $1.50 in interest. It's not a real problem. I just rather have it earning more than $1.50 a month. But I will also tell you our bank analysis fee just went up. I noticed normally it's $10 for our treasurer's checking account. This month's at $31. So U.S. Bank is pulling in a little bit more for us from us. So I hope, I know that was a lot and it was fast, but I hope it kind of gives you an idea of how the city clerk and I kind of have to work together as far as receiving everybody's money in and back and forth. There's double and triple checking that takes place to make sure that what she's written matches what I see, that the additions are done correctly, that my calculations match her calculations, and a lot of times I didn't print off the control sheet for you this month. The one that I had that I was showing you is from last month. There are still questions that we still have things that we need to discuss as to, well, let's see, this money came in, what was it exactly for, what fund should it be in, should we move it? And usually what happens is we try and get this report done right before your meeting. And I'll come rushing down here. The poor bank, they look at me. They look up, and at 3:55, I'm heading down the street towards them. And usually if we see any negative numbers at the far right end of your treasurer's report, we'll do another transfer internally to make sure that that account is not sitting in the red. But they do sit in the red on occasion. Now remember, all of those end dollars down there on the right are part of that 682,000. It's actually 692 or whatever that number is. I can't remember off the top of my head.
672.
So technically, if and again, ladies and gentlemen, technically, if library is at a negative fund balance, we're not getting an overdraft fee. Okay, it just means that within that $670,000, we spent more of what was allocated for library than what we had allocated for library within that $670,000.
Okay.
But I say that with great trepidation. It does not mean, oh, well, we have all this wonderful money to spend. We do not. As you know, you've built your budget. You've got to stick within that budget, and this money can go very quickly. It's not like there's just all this to play with. Forgive me for sounding condescending. I don't mean that at all. It's just that I get a bit nervous. I've always been nervous when people think that things are in one big pot. They are not, and you all know that. You've been through the budget process. Peter, you and I have been through this so many times we could. But really watch those end fund balances. Okay.
Well, I think though too, the important thing is that of the bulk of that money, 425,000 of that is an endowment that we don't touch. It's there to distribute, but we don't have access to it otherwise. So
yeah,
it's not.
You can't spend it.
Right. So it's really not. That imbalance really is, say, deceiving.
It is
when in context.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So please, that I guess you said that much better than I did. It is a matter of when you see those numbers down at the end and you see the bank balance. Remember that really what guides the amount that you can spend on these things, or that is available, is your budget that you've set up last year, and what Paul always used to lovingly call his cookbooks. I mean, there's a couple of binders over there for each and every one of these accounts, all of these bars, codes, and numbers, and you got to open that up and watch the balance move in there, not down here at the bottom of this report. It is, if library has a certain number of dollars, it's better to look at it in there and within your budget than to think of just what's sitting in these accounts, because it is, as the mayor said, deceptive.
And I think too, looking at it in our packets, we had August, and this is September. So this month, the bottom number, the receipt, there's a total there. We received $61,000 roughly, but we spent $79,000. So you say, wait a second, we spent $18,000 more than we took in. But if you look at last month, it was just the opposite. We took in $85,000 and we spent $58,000. Those 2 months combined, $146,500 received, $137,000 spent. So we're still in the positive that way. So looking at it on an individual monthly basis, I mean, it's fine, but also know that the way it ebbs and flows with how we receive things and what we have to pay for. Like last month we spent a lot of money on paying for the AWC, for that GIS thing, for the bias. I mean, there was a lot of expenditures, or when we get some of these payments that don't come in monthly, they might come in quarterly, they might come in, I think the big one is in November from the property tax, the second half of the property tax from the county. That only comes twice a year, but like in May and in November. So,
but you also have big expenses that come in funny places as well. Every time we talk about the sewer bond repayment.
Yes.
That's one where we have to make sure that fund stays big, because all of a sudden you have a $16,000 or a $32,000 payment that you maybe weren't planning on, or that we have planned on because we budget for it. But as the mayor was saying, those numbers will jump all over the place. So you have to watch them. You have to be careful with them.
Which I think was it June or July, we looked at the 6-month mark, kind of where things were at, and I mean, I think doing that on a quarterly basis is probably good for us. I mean, going forward, just having that so we can. But I mean, it's been what I've inherited is we're very diligent with how we spend it and when we spend it, and what we can spend, and if it's not budgeted, we're not really. It's the first thing that always someone asks me about something, I say I got to ask I need to go ask Bunny how we deal with that. Like, do we budget it for it? Do we budget that amount for it? we might have budgeted 5,000, but if it costs 8,000, is it going to hurt us? Or which fund is it out of? Because some of these funds, like Michael just said, in the end of the budget, it's where, as long, we have to make sure at the end of the final budget numbers, or when, at the end of the year, that some of those numbers line up. Within the funds, they can be off balances, but each fund itself has to,
And many of them, you want to be building up those funds.
our reserves, yeah.
You want to make sure that, obviously, that you have enough for criminal justice, but you want to make sure that you know that if we don't continue to actually build that fund, because that's an expense that will always increase. That contract is going to go up, so you can't just spend it all. We've talked about for back when I was on the council, and I'm sure Peter and Levi probably remember this, when we talked about we were building the fund for local fire, or that we were making sure that there was money in the fire account so that when there was an expense for the city truck, or if it ever needed to be replaced, there was money to do that. But if we always kept that fund low because we saw the end balance and we felt that we could spend it, we would get ourselves into trouble if those funds weren't built. And there's a number of them. A fiscally conservative person like myself would say, look, as much money as you can push in there, push it in there and leave it. Let it build. You guys all know that you're looking at, water scares me to death, to be honest with you. The water tank and the different expenses that could come. And so you want to push into those funds. So I like being informed. I like doing this is my kind of bailiwick. I really enjoy spreadsheets and putting the numbers in and out and chasing down the pennies. Me and Paul, we were a little bit alike that way. He would chase pennies for days. And I appreciated that about him. I loved his diligence, and I'm inspired by it, to try and make sure that this really matches up. I really enjoy this stuff, but again, as we've talked about, it can be a little deceiving at the end, and it can be a little scary down there at that end column. You want to make sure that those things are built up as much as possible.
So you'll sign a contract to keep doing this?
Well,
He's running for,
He's
my
on the
contract is what you mark on the paper come November, so,
Mike.
yes.
Oh. No, March first.
This month.
Did you say that if it's budgeted, you need to spend it?
No,
You said if it's budgeted, you don't have to spend it.
that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I mean, to me, it's better to make sure that you
So then
have some
where
cushion.
So if the library is budgeted $5,000 per month, and I only spend 1,000, does that money stay in my account, or does it go back into the slush fund?
It within the budget, if it's budgeted in the library fund, it stays within that library fund.
So
You
then
can,
the
you should
next
be able to go
month,
see
do
it
I
in
get
the
budgeted
cookbook.
Another 5,000.
I'm sorry?
The next month, do I get budgeted another 5,000?
No, you're budgeted every year.
Oh, so if I spend 1,000 instead of the 5, then the next year, do I end up with 9,000 in my account?
it depends who does your budget and
Yep.
what's necessary.
That money can be moved.
I see.
Because it's all just within the, and again, when you look at the budgeting process, as the mayor will tell you, he's been through this a number of times already himself, you begin, very similar to this report, you have a beginning cash balance in each of those funds for the year, and you can transfer in and out of those funds when you do your budget, some of them, not all of them. There are some, as the mayor clearly said, there's some things that just can't get touched. But for example, library, if it's got a beginning cash balance of $1,000 and we budget an income of, those numbers all kind of have to match, and the ins and outs need to match, and by the end we should still have a cash balance in it. And we're hoping that at the end of the year, your cash balance is bigger than what it was the previous year, and that begins your beginning cash balance the next year. But whoever's doing your budget, whoever that mayor happens to be, can say we need those funds over here differently this year.
Okay.
Last year, you had a budget of $5,000, but the library only needed $500. Well, then this year, your beginning cash balance is $300. Well, you know what? Let's just only give you $500 to play with, because you only needed that. Another mayor might say, you know what? We had a $5,000 budget last year. We're going to leave it again and hope you don't spend it again. That all depends on this table right here.
Some of the things, depends where you're at. They might call it like a use it or lose it. If you don't use it, you're going to lose it for the next year.
Yep.
Like you said, some people let it carry over, let it roll. So you got 5, you budgeted 5, you spent 1, you got 4 left, plus another 5. Now next year it's 9,000. That's a year in and year out, and I say a personality thing, but it probably is the personality
process.
of who the council is and what's necessary. 2 years ago for the library, we had a lot of money allocated for, I think, was it the light project? A couple things. This last year, we didn't put as much in there because we knew that we weren't going to we knew that the previous year was beefed up for that, and there was a reason for that. So that's where we had our budget workshop and stuff too, is talking, like, what is it that's necessary? Is there special projects that you have planned for 2020 that we have to consider in the budget? The same with the city public works. Is there things that we need to consider that we don't know about, that we didn't spend, or one-time things? So that's where having that information.
Thank you.
A couple of quick questions. Go ahead, Sherry.
I'm wondering what these numbers are here at the bottom left.
Oh, those were accidental cells. Just ignore those. She's talking about down actually below the receipts. There's a couple of cells that have some numbers in them. Those were me not cleaning up my work. I was doing some calculations as to, hey, why is this different than this? And so sometimes I'll click in a cell and have it figure a quick formula for me and find something out, and I forget to clean it up so the report looks pretty when I present it to you.
Messy.
Yeah. Well, I do miss a few things, and things get left. And I'll be honest with you, there's a whole bunch of notes way over here on the side that I don't let you see, because next month as I build the next report, I build on the one that was there previously, and I've got notes over here to myself to remember, hey, we moved this money,
Right?
and know where that's coming from. There's a great big huge, I've got a massive one right over here that says how much out of balance I am, right over here on the side. So I know I got to go find $500. Today at 6 o'clock, I was $4,000 off, and I couldn't figure out where in the world that $4,000 was. We were to the good, by the way.
Oh, good.
Well, I had receipted a check that I actually deposited in October, and I'd receipted it in September. So I got to go back and fix that. But at least I can find those dollar amounts.
Right.
So there's a lot off to the side and underneath the spreadsheet that you may not see, but it is there.
And probably it's okay that we don't.
It could make you nervous. Go, Peter?
Real question, summary box in the lower right-hand
Yes.
corner. I think you said APC is for salary, or is that?
That's payroll and claims. That's where Bunny literally writes her checks out of that account.
And this is an allotment. I'm curious to know why it comes to 35,000 exactly.
That's a really good question.
Is that the
It's a
summary of all the
question that
salaries?
the auditors have asked us. It's a question that the state has asked us, and every time we try and answer it, we can't. But when that was set up, I believe back under Mary Alice. So you don't even know who Mary Alice is, do you?
No.
Well, let's see. Let's wind back here. There's me, then there was Paul, then there was Tara, and then before that was
Carla.
and then Mary Alice. And Mary Alice was treasurer for how many years?
So probably 10,
Yeah.
I guess, I don't remember.
So at that time, it was back when she was treasurer, the state came in and said, well, you look at this account and this is the number you just plug in there. And that's got to be there. And I kid you not, the minute I try and balance that account and put an actual number in there, nothing will balance. It's some sort of mysterious magical thing that happens. And so we're still we discussed that with the state auditors and everything else. They want us to get an actual number in there, and we're working on it, but we've been working on it for years, trying to make that work. You plunk that 35,000 in there and everything balances like it's supposed to. I don't know why.
Okay, that remains
Isn't that a
mystery.
wonderful answer?
Yeah, okay. And this is the first time I've really fully recognized that the treasurer enters each transaction in to create this every month. Is that correct? Every
Well,
revenue, every
I enter a
expense?
percentage of all the transactions that the city clerk enters in. All I do is, you saw that pink receipt that I showed you?
Yep.
Okay, all of those different things that were on that receipt, those individual transactions, the city clerk will write receipts, like for one check has to receipt in all of the different accounts that it goes into, and then she summarizes all of that up and tells me, let me show you this just so you're, as you look at what is done, I'll come to Peter and he can pass this around, it's already numbered and everything. Okay, so
It's a summary. You enter the
So-
summary.
I enter this summary right over here for utilities, water, sewer, garbage, hall rental, and cemetery maintenance. But these are the receipt numbers that the clerk has entered for all of these checks. So there are water, sewer, garbage receipts from number 7168 to 7183 that she's entered in for here. There are hall rental receipts, that's number 11 or 1689, and this receipt for that, and those numbers from all of these receipts for all of these checks and all of this cash come out to these numbers. So that's why I think most people really don't understand the work that goes in to that job. And yet, so, God bless you both. You're doing it while people are standing at your counter all the time wanting to talk to you about everything. It's no wonder to me that you have to spend so much time checking and rechecking and checking again to make sure that all that is correct. And then I recheck again when she gives me those categories in the upper left-hand corner, when I put those on the receipts that I then turn around.
I think too with the bias, the new software, that stuff, you enter it once and you print that report every day, so it summarizes it. I mean, that's one of the...
Yes, but the internal, what an internal auditor would say is, how many internal controls do you have?
Oh, no,
But then that report goes to you.
no, it's the same process.
That's still, it's
It
gonna
just-
be the same process. You'll still be double checking it.
Yeah.
But some of that we enter it
So
once.
forgive me for showing people's private information, what their checks amount were on here. Please don't read down that. I just wanted you to see all of the work that goes into what they do, just to give me a summary over here that I can then receipt in. So
How many days a week does the treasurer work to do entry? Do you do it once a week, once a month?
I do it whenever I can get around to it, I'll be honest with you.
So it's irregular.
Sometimes I'll take a weekend and I'll spend 6, 8, 10 hours on the weekend doing that and getting the report ready, but I'll be honest, I'm not as diligent as I should be. Those receipts, when they come in, they always have them in the drawer up here for me so I can gather them and I can enter them in consistently. My goal is to be down here 1 to 2 days a week when they're working so that we can talk about stuff, but my schedule with school and athletic director and everything else makes it a little tough to get down here at those times. That's usually why I'm running in here at 3:50 trying to grab receipts to go down to the bank at 3:55, because some student after school has needed help with homework or somebody needs me to go recognize, hey, what are we doing with the sports schedule? So I start screaming at about 3:45, I gotta get to the bank. So, but I do enjoy being able to get down here and be in the back room and that station, it's a little cleaner. I don't know where half of the maps went that were piled up in behind me, but
Well, if you stay long enough tonight, Justin
Yeah.
can probably tell you.
That's right.
okay. So I apologize. I tend to be long-winded. I know I took way more time than what we were anticipating, but
Very useful.
It
in my
was
opinion.
very helpful.
that you can, as you look at those reports, they make a little more sense to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I would like to look over the treasurer's shoulder someday when you're doing the entry, just to see the actual process.
Absolutely.
Good. Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
All right, so next on our agenda, small water system funding. So we had Steve Marsh here last month. We had, I guess, a clarification after the fact, but so we are on 2 different funding cycles. So we got approved for a loan, which we saw last time, that is for this cycle. But the grant funding isn't until the next cycle. But we thought we could sit on that loan until the next funding cycle and accept, delay accepting it. But that was clarified by the state that we can't do that. So, I don't know, Bunny, do you know, if we take that money, if we don't spend any of it, are we still charged? Like, do we draw down on it? Is it?
I don't think you can't use any of that money until the plan is all in place and has been approved.
Yeah. But so we still might have a payment though. So we need to decide,
So has it been turned back? Has anybody authorized Steve to turn it back?
no, we haven't, no, that's what we need to do now, is to say, are we going to accept it and wait and hope that next cycle, which will be 2020, that we'll get the grant funding to go with that? Or do we not accept it and then apply for it again next year, but maybe not get it, and then only have partial funding? You know, so it's like a chicken and the egg. We have part of it now, hope to get part next year. If we turn it down, we might get part next year. So it's like we're not on the same cycle.
If we
We
if
can't
we
just backlog that money though and put it in the bank. You would have to spend it. I mean, if they're gonna give you $35,000, you can't just put it in the bank and draw interest on it.
No, but I think that we need to talk to them and say, okay, can we start doing the plan now? We don't, the plan, I think to do that small water system plan was around $90,000. We can start that use.
Steve got enough started on it that they would accept that? I thought-
They already awarded it to us to start working on the plan. We can't apply for grant funding though. The grant funding doesn't happen until 2020. So we can start on our water system plan. We just can't, we'd have to tell Steve, right now, we only have $35,000. So if you spend $60,000, you're not getting paid $60,000. You're only going to get paid as much as we have.
I thought
But
that's what he was checking out with Steve.
he was checking to see if we could accept it but delay receiving it in order to be on together. And they said, no, you have to basically decide and either take it or deny it. But the problem is we're not guaranteed the rest of it,
Right.
and so we have a decision to make. We do need a small water systems plan. I mean, that's a fact. Part of the reason we're getting this loan funding and the grant funding is because we did the low and moderate income, the LMI survey, and so that's what the CDBG funding, community development block grant funding, is for. So, I mean, I guess there's a risk to it, but there's a risk of not doing it either, because if we don't do it, we might not get it all next year. So then next year we get a grant, but then, and the grant people though, it's kind of the same thing that the chamber was working with, with their project, with the street corner there, is they all look at that together, and if they see that we're going forward and we've started it, but we don't have enough to finish it, the chances of getting a grant are a lot greater. The problem is we just can't apply for that grant and be awarded until next year because of the way the cycles work.
Sounds to me as though we could approach the state and approach Steve Marsh to explain the situation to him to see if they can somehow rectify it.
No, Steve followed up after our meeting and asked them how to rectify that, and they said, no, this is one cycle and that's the next. So you either have to accept our money now, or you have to decline it. You can't say, hey, we want to wait to see if we get funding next cycle, because that's next year.
What's the pitfall if we accept the money this year again?
just not having a full amount of money to complete the
total cost to
plan?
do the estimated cost at this point is about $85,000 or $88,000, I think was the number. So this is roughly 34. This is a third of that, or 30% of that money. So we can get it started, and then in the end we might
just does a third of the work and then we twiddle our thumbs until we get the money for the next part of it.
I'd say we have a plan to go, if that did happen, what we would do next in place.
Right.
We take this and then we say, okay, well, we didn't even get a grant in 2020. Now what? We have a third of it done. Something to move forward. Should we choose to take the
There's pro-
$34,000 now?
Yeah, and there's probably other grants out there. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot of grants that we don't apply for that we probably could, that I'm not aware. I mean, I know they exist. I just don't know what they are. But I mean, there's a little risk of we start it, but we don't get to finish the full thing. But there's a risk of not taking
But
it.
if we don't take it, we may never get to start it.
Correct. Is my
A quick question for me: if we take the $34,000 now and get some work done on it, say we get some work done on the plan, say half of it's done, is there anything with the timing that's gonna screw up the small water plan? Say if it takes us 4 more years to secure the rest of the funding to complete that plan, is that first part of the work gonna be outdated, or is there any effect? I'm sure after so many years, but say 3 years.
I don't know the exact timeline
Okay.
of how long they're good for. I mean, we updated our CIP, our capital improvement plan last year. It hadn't been updated in 25 years. So, since 93. but from an asset planning, asset inventory value planning, we needed a small water system plan in place. I mean, somebody earlier, I don't know if it was before the meeting, talked about the water system. I mean, all this stuff, or maybe it was the treasurer mentioning it. You mentioned it last time, like that's one of your things every year is that water tower. This is what's going to help us have a plan in place for those types of things, to identify what we need to replace and when. This is all part of, even when we just had the GIS mapping done, that's for our pipes. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into place. So this is another piece of that puzzle that I would say is long overdue.
It looks like the 34.5 that we got from Public Works is a 5-year payback.
Yeah, and it's about going to be about what, $277 per ratepayer, I think is the number that that's that math we did 2 months ago. We had it presented at the council meeting. The payment, it's less than 0.5% a month of interest.
It's
0.4% or something.
0.4%.
So it's basically free money. The interest is really not. It's almost like the bank interest, right? We get $1.83 per 100 or $1.50 per 183,000. That's basically what we're paying. I mean, the interest is we're just paying back the principal.
This is put down here as discussion. When do we need to take action? And
I think that was from I think this just got left over from last month, so we do need to take
it's
action.
Okay.
Because we didn't do it. We had Steve present on it last month, so they've been emailing me quite a bit. The folks there to accept it or tell them yay or nay, and I feign ignorance. So,
What's Steve Marsh have to say about this? Can he amplify on what Levi just proposed?
well, Steve's a consultant, so Steve's going to say you should go forward because I mean we're paying them to do it.
Of course.
I would also say that I think any of the potential funders, like the grant opportunity, sees that we started and we took the initiative to do it.
The initiative.
They're probably more likely to fund us the money to get us to the finish line.
Mm-hmm. Do you need a motion for this?
Yes, because it's accepting $34,000 that we then have to start paying back under the terms.
I move that the city accept the $34,000 predicated on the assumption that we will be able to raise money next year.
I'll second that.
So time out. So predicated on that's the crux.
Yeah.
We don't
Drop the predicated.
Okay.
I move that the city accept the $34,000. Is it a grant or
This is a loan here.
loan?
Loan, yeah.
So we accept the loan.
The water rates will have to increase by about $3.
$277?
Yeah.
Well,
That's what the number that they presented. I mean, that's what on just a straight across.
$3.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's my motion.
So a motion to accept the loan, and as a sidebar, yes, not predicated officially, but our intent is to get this grant funding.
With the understanding
Yes.
that with
the understanding that we're going to try
there
to
will
get.
be follow-on funding.
Yes,
I'll still second
and
that.
seconded by Councilmember Schenk. All right. Any further discussion?
So the 277 is going to pay back the loan.
The $277 per ratepayer is what that number is a rough. I mean, that's I think the number. Yes, that's per person per household per month, in order to pay back that loan in 5 years.
Okay.
So in the end, no matter what, we're getting this water system plan. 2/3 of it, if we get the grant funding, is being funded by grant money, but the other 1/3 is being funded by the city, and hence the tax. And we're passing it. That's also if we choose to pass it on. That's what the funders would recommend and suggest anyway. So
You said if we choose to pass it on, would that be indefinite? That would be then passed on to the residents, or the city would absorb that, or
that's a budget decision.
Okay.
That'll get washed out in the budget.
okay.
4 years ago, we had a special assessment that was for 3 years that sunsetted last year.
Right.
That could be an option. This last year, we also increased our utility bills.
Right.
So I think I mentioned before, I heard one time the guy said it took them 9 years of double-digit increases to get back to where they had because they hadn't increased their. So that's budget. That'll wash out in the budget, and then we would make if we decide to.
We could choose to go either way, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if there's an increase, then we would have to make a resolution or something. You know, we have that the utility rate thing that happens at the end of the year. But that's a budget. That gets washed out in the budget. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
What's the penalty if we don't spend this money? We've now moved to accept, if it passes, we get the 34,000.
We just have to pay it back. The penalty is just to pay it back.
We're gonna take it.
With interest.
So might,
0.4%.
Yeah. So there's very little downside to accepting the grant.
The
We
loan.
can pay
The
it
loan.
back.
Because we do need to do this
Yeah.
this thing. Yeah, no, I'm in agreement. And it's a start. It's a good start. It's the next step that we need to do, and hopefully then we'll be on the same cycle. And again, we'll be already a third of the way through it. So when it comes through next year, that grant funding, we will already have some of that going. So. Okay. So motion seconded. No further discussion. All in favor indicate by. Yep.
I'm sorry, one more question. Do we know that the, who is it, TD&H will start the process with only 34,000?
They'll take any money they can get.
Okay.
I mean,
They're not gonna wait for the whole,
They won't finish. They're only going to work to $34,000 worth.
okay.
They'll
All
tell.
right.
We'll tell them this is what we have, and that's where they'll. That's where I mean that. But to them, that's they're spending money. We might not get a finished report,
Okay.
but they'll work up to $34,500 or whatever it is, and then they'll be like, okay, well,
Find us the
Give us
rest
some
of
more
the
money.
yeah. So that's an inducement for them to go out and get those grant monies too, so they can get paid another $60,000 or whatever to finish it up.
Okay.
Peter, would you restate your motion, please, so I can get it
I
correct?
move that the city accept the loan of $34,000.
34,500.
500, thank you,
And then you said something
34,500.
about with the understanding, and I didn't.
Yeah, and I dropped the predicated.
Okay.
But the understanding that we're going to look for the grant funding. First he said predicated, and I said timeout, but with the understanding that we're shooting for, we're going to go get the grant money. But we're going to search
Get
it
it
out.
finished.
Yeah.
Cycle, yeah.
And then seconded by Councilmember Shank.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, last call. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right, passes 5-0. Thank you, council. All right. Next, Department of Ecology wastewater treatment project. So this is the same thing. This is from Andy Tom with Sewell, who is our wastewater, our storm sewer and wastewater treatment plant engineers, and they went ahead and they applied for a grant, and we received it, or a loan and a grant, I guess. And this is part of our permit that we have with the operation plant, or with the wastewater treatment plant. That our permit, we quit paying for the ethanol. We were putting in about $300 or $350 a month of ethanol in, and they're trying to disprove that, which is the meeting we had before. The ecology is fine with that and says go, but in order to do that, we have to have a hydrogeology report, which we talked about last month, which is going to cost us money. There's a portable sampler that Andy Tom thinks would be really good for Scott to have, cost us money. So we have to pay for this anyway. They're just giving us a $22,000 grant because we said the project's going to cost us $44,000. So we're paying for half of it and getting the other half free, but we have to pay for it anyway. We have to pay for some of it anyway as part of our permit. The water sampler, or the portable sampler, is an extra, if you will, but it's to help Scott do his job better, and it's recommended by the engineer and kind of blessed a little bit by the ecology. So I wouldn't say but the hydrogeologist report is a requirement for us to prove to the state that the numbers that they think we should be at are impossible to get. So that's another one, $22,000 grant and $22,000 loan that we with a similar, I don't have the terms here in front of me, but we've had it at a previous meeting from Andy Tom. We had those terms from that's from ecology. The other one's Department of Health. So, but Andy Tom has been calling every day, I think, and I just tell him to call Bunny because I know she likes talking to him, right? Actually, she calls Bunny and she tells him to call me, and I say, "Well, Andy, you got to call Bunny," and he's like, "I just did," and she told me to call you. So, we'd also need to decide to do that as well, because we have to accept the grant money. The loan, there's not a loan associated with it. There's no loan. No. It's the grant money, but we have to spend the money. We're spending the money ourselves because we have to pay for this.
22,000.
Yeah, so they're basically matching what we told them we were going to spend, and so that's Andy Tom writing the report.
Who's matching again?
The Department of Ecology will match our. There's not a loan associated with it, but it's our. We said it's going to cost total of $44,000, which is engineering fees, consulting fees. It's that hydrogeology report, and it's that portable water sampler.
So we have to shell out 22 grand of our own money in addition to the 22 from the grant, correct?
Yes. I mean, they're basically, I think, matching what we end up spending.
Did we have this figured into the budget already, or is this going to come out next year?
It'll be for next year.
Okay.
Because it's not in our budget for this year.
Right. That's my question.
But it's to accept it now, but to have it take place next year. And it's due, I think, September of 2020 is when our permit document says that we'll have this thing done. And so,
What happens if we go through this process and the state doesn't bite on us proving that those numbers are not possible to get? So we're doing all this, we're paying this money and doing these studies and this work to try to say, hey, look, that's not going to happen. I'm trying to prove it to you. What happens if they were to say, well, tough?
we go back to paying
paying for that, and then this is...
Yeah, basically it would
22
be...
grand on top of it.
We bought a report that didn't do anything, but then... Because for the last year and a half, it's been about a year and a half, I believe, or at least a year, maybe 15 months, we haven't been putting methanol in. Andy got them to buy off on... We were doing it wrong for the last 5 years. Or basically, we should have put it in after when it should have went in before, or some weird thing, but it was wrong. So basically, we were wasting that money anyway. So for the last year and a half, or 15 months to year and a half, we haven't been paying the $300 to $350 a month for the ethanol or the methanol that we used to pour in there. So we'll have to go back to doing that probably, but we never achieved that number to begin with.
Right.
That was the problem. So we're responsible to achieve that number. We're trying to tell them that number is inachievable, so this is the steps we're doing. If this disproves that, if this doesn't prove to be true, we have to go back to the drawing board and try to figure out how to achieve that number. But it's our responsibility no matter what. They're just saying, hey, we want to help you spend your money.
And is Andy of the opinion that we can prove it?
Very much so. He's
Okay.
adamant. He's the one driving this. He's the one that brought it up to the Department of Ecology that there's no way that the number that they gave us is achievable
Okay.
based on our plant and what we're doing. And ecology is very much in belief of that this might, and Andy used to work at ecology. He's a scientist and stuff. So whatever his hypothesis is, they've bought into it as well. We just have to pay to prove it.
Okay.
Is what they're forcing. They make the onus on us to prove what we think.
What do we know about the 44,000? Have we seen a detailed, itemized list of what the expenses will be?
Yeah.
The minutes that I have filed here kind of tell what they... that kind of details what it...
Curious about that number because I'm innately suspicious of somebody who comes to me and says, you're going to have to pay me $44,000 to do X amount of work when I haven't seen the a detailed itemization of the work.
I suspect that they probably couldn't give you an exact itemized report to what they would have to do.
They should be able to,
So this was,
pretty accurately, I should think.
This is government we're talking.
well, so Andy's proposal, because he applied for this grant and told them he thinks this project's gonna cost us $44,000. That was what he submitted a full grant or a grant application to the state
Which has to be itemized.
for our project.
Yeah.
And they accepted that and said, great, we'll pay half of it. Is what that number is. And there's a breakout for the hydrogeologist report, the water sampler,
For the engineer.
the engineering, right here. So it's actually,
For the-
so it's 8,000 for so the total right here is 39,000 is what
That's what, yeah.
yeah, so it's 8,000 for the hydrogeologist report, 2,000 for the assistance to purchase the portable composite sampler, and $29,000 for a facilities plan update, which is Andy Tom. That's his estimate. So,
A facilities,
Paperwork
Plan-
always
plan
costs
update.
more than the actual work.
so that's
what is that?
him writing a report on all this stuff here, saying that we're not going to be able to meet that number that the state says that we're supposed to be meeting, that our permit, that they put in our permit when we.
It's interesting that Alan Gay, the old engineer, said that he didn't think there was any reason that it couldn't be met if we operated the plant right.
This is Alan we're talking about? Who helped
He got a
design the other one? didn't he?
notification about this because we hadn't let the state know that Andy Tom was the engineer. So Alan Gay calls me and he said, tells me about this, and then he responds. And he gives his information because he designed the plant.
Mm-hmm.
And then it says
Which
here,
has worked so well for us.
The interim amount of 10 milligrams per liter should be very achievable if the existing plant operated correctly, using supplemental carbon, methanol,
Yep.
in the dosing chamber ahead of the recirculating filter pumps.
Yep.
Well, the state and Andy both have said that they don't agree with that.
Has anyone other than Alan agreed with that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
It was accepted, that
missing.
permit was before my time on the council even. All I've known about this personally is when I was on the council, we heard about the methanol every month. And then Andy Tom was when
Yeah.
Andy came aboard.
I was just curious if there was anyone else on board that had the same thought as.
But ecology doesn't, but ecology agrees with Andy's hypothesis that the 10 isn't even achievable because we've never achieved it. Now, that plant was also built for twice or three times the size of people we have. So part of it, it's never,
Ecology approved the plan and came up with the original specifications for what those ratings were supposed to be. So now they're the ones that are flipping around on it too, so.
right. And the lady that works at ecology now used to work for the guy that designed it. So it's a very circuitous situation, but no matter what, we're stuck with it.
We
So-
have to do something about it.
We only operate it at a third or half of its capacity. You're probably dang right it's not going to work efficiently. I mean, so unless we go out and double or triple our
Maybe he had
our
faith
ser-
our community would grow.
yeah. So
Sarcasm.
Question?
yes,
When we first met with Andy Tom, even before we hired him, he mentioned that he knew of a woman who was a very good hydrogeologist. You probably remember that conversation. Is she predicted, or is she going to be hired for this? Is she included in that 44,000?
yes, that's where that the hydrogeologist report that Andy quoted. He's talked to her about because he's building. The total bill he had to, when he did the bid or the grant application, he had to get that from her. So they're projecting that's going to be $8,000, and that's the lady that he's.
Have we seen that proposal from her?
No, because that was between Andy and her. Because Andy's going to take her report and incorporate it into that facilities plan update report that cost $29,000.
Shouldn't that $8,000 study be let through a competitive process, though? We're being handed a fait accompli.
Well, we trusted. When we hired Andy, this is my opinion, when we hired Andy Tom to be our engineer, we trusted him to know these things more than us. So,
That was the whole point of hiring him.
right, I mean, so that's just a general statement. I mean,
Right.
that's what that purpose is, how as I understand it, that was the purpose of hiring. So we're saying that he knows best, and that if he thinks that she's the best one and it costs $8,000, we can question it, but I think the general assumption would be that we hired him to tell us that that's what we need.
He's our general contractor, and who he gets as his subs, as long as they fit his bill, then that's where it goes.
Yeah.
Now this is another 22 grand. Do we have any idea where we would get the money? Would we be raising our rates again in order to cover that as well? Which vein would we open?
So in the end, we have to spend, I don't know if it's quite $22,000, but we have to spend that money, we have to pay for that money next year in order to meet our obligations of our permit. It might be, because he has to do this facility plan update anyway, he budgeted at $29,000.
Okay.
So if you look at that without the sampler, it's 8 plus 29 is $37,000 that we have to pay. So we have to pay it no matter what,
Right.
either with grant funding or without. Have we got that yet? Have we gotten to how we're going to pay for it yet? No, because it's going to be in next year's budget. So does it mean we could have to raise rates? It could. The full amount? You know, I mean, that's what we'll have to figure. That's where we'll have to figure that out. But no matter what, I mean, what I know from what, I mean, even from before, is that we have to do this. Or will we not? We'll. That's later in our conversation, the next item, I think, but we'll be further not in compliance with our permit. So,
Marge had a question a while ago.
Yeah, I'm still wondering if we have that woman still working to fill in where
Yes.
Scott did not have accreditation?
yes, well,
And how much does she cost us?
$600 a month. We budgeted last year $1,200 a month, which is another story, but
Why didn't we
Has
budget
Scott made any
1,200?
progress on his accreditation?
no, and is not planning on it,
Oh, he's not.
no.
So then we have hired her permanently?
Maybe, that's the next item of discussion.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. No, it's a bone of contention too, so,
One quick thing on these previous two,
yeah,
on the ecology stuff and the small water system.
yeah.
When we're shelling out a lot of money for both of these items. Going forward, what is the maintenance upkeep on the plans like, cost wise? Is this something that has to be updated every year or every 5 years? What's the maintenance fees that are involved? Yeah, lifespan on these documents and on these, more so the small water system.
I don't have a good answer because the only thing I can answer is we don't have them now.
Right.
So the thing we're still paying off is that O&M plan that hadn't been updated. It had never been updated since the plant was opened. The capital improvement plan hadn't been updated in 25 years. So I don't have myself personally. I don't have a baseline to know how often these need to do.
Right. Maybe that'd be a better question for Andy and for
Steve.
Steve. Okay.
But the small water systems funding, I mean, that plan to have in place is so for us to be able, it's a plan for us to be able to lay it out, to see where things are at, and then to be able to go out after grant funding and bigger projects to that's like just a plan so we kind of know what we have,
Right.
and then to go out and get go after these funding opportunities to upgrade our infrastructure. And so just on here, I saw your note. It's not a loan. It's a $22,000 grant, and then the other
22 out of pocket, 22
Yes.
grand.
I didn't put them on here this order because you might have said on the second one you might have decided not to do it. I think this was just carried over from last month, but my whole thing is I just know that we're going to have to pay at least the $37,000 out of pocket if we decide not to no matter what, we have to pay $37,000. If we decide to get part of it paid for, great. That's that whole, I mean, that's that that portable sampler.
Yeah.
I think it's, again, Andy's the one that proposed that, and that might be part of the grant. It's not I think he's telling Scott, like, this is gonna make make this part of this process easier and make that job easier. Something that we probably should have had already that we don't have. That came out of the O&M plan thing, so I don't think there's fluff in that. Like, oh, like that's just like a nice to have type of thing. I think it's more of a, we probably should have had it before, and I don't know that Scott even knew about it. Like, if it was something something he didn't know about it. It was something that Andy had said that this will make this process easier, type of thing. So. So that's another thing. We've been awarded the grant. We have to decide to accept it or not. If we don't accept it, we're going to have to pay. We'll pay $37,000 out of our pocket. So, I'll entertain a motion to accept the grant funding to do this project.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Councilmember McClellan, seconded by Tipton, to accept the grant funding to do with the whole project and plan, or to go forward with the project using the grant funding as well as our own funding.
And the source of this grant again is?
Department of Ecology.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When would we receive it? Would it be for next year, or would we get it this year?
It might already, it might be for this year. I know the whole entire program wouldn't be done until next year. Like, the final bill we wouldn't get. So I don't know the exact, if we accept it today, or if we have to show them receipts or whatnot. I don't know that whole process yet, but
The effective date of this agreement is July 1st, 2019. Termination date, December 31st, 2020.
so because the permit has to be updated, or this has to be met by September of 2020. So basically, we're telling them we would be done in a year and a half. So again,
A year and a half?
between July 31st of 19 through December 31st of 2020 is when how the grant was written, that we would be done with our project. Because Andy knew that September 2020 is when our permit needs to be updated with this information that we have to pay for. Which it was actually due this September, and she extended it to next year, knowing that we were going to try to get grant funding for this. And she's the one that I think sat on that project and probably, pushed, the paper over to nudge somebody to say, these guys really need it. This is the lady that's been out here. So
So we're accepting 22,000, is that what
the
was?
the grant
The grant for 22,000?
yeah, with
That's what our obligation will be.
no
No.
we have to do this. I mean, we're accepting the grant. The 22,000 is contingent on us doing this project.
Uh-huh.
I think right now they have 38 or 39,000 dollars, but it's to do this. It's to do this. It's to do the project that Andy's presented with, to go forward doing that while accepting the grant funding from the ecology.
And what's to stop us in the end from trying to secure another grant to cover the other 22?
There's nothing.
Probably not.
So we could keep fishing and possibly not even have to take that out of our budget.
Or we can replenish we can replace it. Yeah, we could.
Okay.
We could ask Andy to do that too.
So it's not like we're definitely out to 22. There's always an opportunity for us to pick up more money.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know what the odds are of getting that, but but no, I mean, in all seriousness, there is.
Yeah.
We can ask Andy to go out and start, fishing
It's
for more.
not like our $22,000 is, its fate is sealed. There's still an option or the possibility of coming up with something.
Yeah. But if we don't, like I said, if we don't accept it, we're still going to have to pay $38,000 out of pocket.
Regardless, yeah.
Right.
So a motion by Councilman McClellan, seconded by Councilman Tipton, to go forward with this project presented by Andy Tom, that it also includes accepting $22,000 in grant funding. Any further discussion?
Janice has a question.
It was just for the grant fund. It was not for the grant and the loan.
There's no loan.
No
There's no
loan.
loan
We just have-
out of pocket.
This is for the project. If we don't do the project, we're not going to get the grant funding. So,
We have to do the project because our permit is dependent on it.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Could the motion be stated again, please?
To go forward with the project presented by Andy Tom for a wastewater treatment plan that includes the $22,000 in grant funding from Ecology. With based on the bill, the contract we have, it's right now at $39,000, though the grant was written at an estimate of $44,000, I believe, because they were funding half of it. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? That carries 5-0. Thank you, council. All right, next on the list is Department of Ecology DMRs.
We have another visitor over here that I don't know that you were acknowledged.
That's Lauren.
This is Lauren.
Hi, Lauren.
I don't know Lauren's last name, but Dowd?
Stout.
Stout. Lauren Stout.
STOUT.
Welcome, Lauren. Hopefully that's proper enough.
Thank you.
Okay, Department of Ecology DMRs. As you all know, we had a fine for not filing DMRs in the past.
I'm sorry, what are DMRs?
Daily monitoring reports.
Oh,
Or discharge monitoring reports
thank you. Okay.
that are filed monthly.
Discharge monthly report, discharge.
Monitoring.
It's part of the wastewater treatment.
Part of the wastewater treatment plant. If you recall, we got fined because we didn't file them for 15 months. So we got a $10,000 fine.
Right.
And then
Reduced to.
reduced to $1,000 because we were going to clean up our act and go forward. And then the first month after we told them we were going to clean up our act, we didn't do it. So they were going to reinstate the fine, but we pleaded and begged that said, hey, things are changing in the city. Can you help us out? And they said, okay, but you're still on double secret probation. If it happens again. So last month, as part of that, Scott doesn't, as Margin brought up, Scott has a level 1 operator license. Our project requires us to have a level 2. Scott has never gotten a level 2. Paul Gilland, in his capacity as mayor, acted as a level 2 or group 2 operator. He knew enough because he helped design it. He convinced Ecology that he could do that, and they accepted it. When Paul wasn't the mayor anymore, we didn't have a group 2. We didn't have anyone that knew how to do it, so we didn't file. We had a group 1, but that wasn't that, and so for probably at least a year and a half, we thought Scott was going to do it, and he decided not to. So we hired a lady, a contract operator, who has a group 2, and that was when I was on the council, and we negotiated a contract of $600 a month. And that $600 a month essentially is for her signature. The cost of her group 2 license. Scott's the boots on the ground. She's the... so Peter doesn't think that there's a conspiracy. For full disclosure, this is the lady that also runs the lab, AAA Labs. She's the AAA lab operator, and she's a contract operator. So she gets...
Isn't that a conflict of interest?
Ecology doesn't like the fact that we use her for various reasons, but they also know that we're in a hard spot, and so they accept the fact that we have a group 2. We're meeting our obligation. Last month there was a problem with filing. She told them ahead of time that she tried to file and there was some issues, and they said, okay, it's all fixed. And she said, well, I'm going to be out of town until the following week. And they said, well, your report is due on the 15th by midnight. It's always due every month by the 15th of the month at 11:59 p.m. And she said, well, I'm going to be out of town. So it never got filed. And so we got a call last week that $5,000 fine is heading our way because we didn't file. and talking to Scott about it, because Scott was aware of it, but Scott said I don't know, Madam Clerk, I don't know what, if you would like to.
He didn't seem real concerned about it.
Mr. Mayor, what's all involved in filing?
You go on the computer screen and you take a bunch of numbers that you get from readings from that wastewater treatment plant.
So it's not a long process to do this.
I've never seen the report. I've never seen the filing process itself. I know Paul Gilland used to do it by hand. Is that right? And would send it off. When Dylan came on, Dylan said why it didn't get filed for 15 months. He was going to file it online, but he didn't know what he was filing because he didn't have the numbers that come from the operator, from Scott. So the problem this time, we've hit every month we've hit it right on time or usually, but the state doesn't care. The state says it's even so if you have errors, they say that's fine. You have to correct the error. So one month we filed on the 15th and we had errors. That's what the first month. And we said, well, we filed it. And they said, yeah, but you have errors. You have to file it clean. So that's what we said, okay, give us, we're still learning, apparently. And so they said, okay. And so we've been on time ever since then. We've been on track, except this month there was a problem. They changed the format. There was a problem with them filing. She told them, and they said, that's fine. We got it fixed for you, but she was going out of town. And so we failed to file.
The error was the DOE's system or AAA's system?
The error occurred how I understand it was DOE's error in a change in their format. But they told her 3 or 4 or 5 days before it was due.
Mm-hmm.
But she said, well, I'm going out of town. I already tried to file it. I can't file it till I get back. And they said, that's fine, but your filing period is the 15th at 11:59. So they don't give us credit for trying.
You don't get a participation.
Could I ask, when they communicated with her that it was now fixed, and she still said, well, she couldn't have done it before she left then?
Could have.
Apparently
not.
not.
We pay her for that, correct?
We pay $600 a month for that. The email came to myself, to Bunny, to Scott, and to her from the state saying it's still due. So I was out of town, or I was going out of town, and I even remembered, because I got a notice on the 17th that we filed. And I said, oh, crap, this is going to happen. And I talked to Scott about it, because Scott was on there, and in my opinion, as the wastewater treatment plant operator who has a license, he would have filled in for that. Because the clerk said, well, what...
people at DOE that
they would
have to help.
Yes, Andy O'Neill has come out here and spent countless hours with him and would have helped us. But no one ever made that was never contacted. There was never an attempt. It never even crossed his mind based on the conversation that we had after we found out about it. So
The fine is $5,000, you said?
it hasn't come out. That's what they told me it was verbally. She said it's kind of a slow process, but yeah, she said it was $5,000. I don't know why it wasn't the $9,000, but it's at least $5,000. Oh, it's $5,000.
I don't know all the facts. I'm not sure anybody around this table knows all the facts, but my impression is that may not be the city's liability.
We paid somebody to do it and they didn't.
And the state says your contract is pretty weak. It doesn't say who's supposed to file.
Ouch.
What? If Scott knew about it, did he make it aware to the city that, hey, this is not going to get done on time, or I need some help, or he just shined it on, basically?
I don't know. The email came to myself, to Bunny, to Scott, and to our contract operator.
It's what we pay the contract operator to do, it seems to me. That's her responsibility, and she elected not to.
Except our contract, as pointed out to me by the state ecology, says it's not clear who's going to file. It doesn't say who's filing. It doesn't say who's responsible. I brought that up 3 times to those guys. Who's responsible for filing?
City has a little like.
Yeah, it ultimately falls on the city. But the ecology is telling us your contract with this person is not clear with that.
Imagine that, yeah.
What does it take to get this second one? We're leasing the one, what does it take to get?
Taking some classes and taking an exam.
Putting in time and effort.
And as a council member, and this is my 4th year sitting at this table, either as the mayor or the council, and it's been on a docket for 4 years.
Oh, yeah.
It used to come up because it came up every meeting when Dylan was the mayor. It was a topic of the maintenance report. Are we, Scott's doing this, and
It's always on.
we've talked to him. But last year, that's what we decided. I mean, and we were paying her $1,200. That's what we budgeted for, and that was so we could, because we thought she was going to have to be out here every week or whatever doing this. And she made a deal with Scott and said, "You're the boots on the ground. I'll file for you. I'm only going to charge you $600 for my, basically for my name." So, but she has I talked to the lady at the state, and I said, she goes, "You guys are," she goes, "there's not too many contract operators out there. Like, the state doesn't like that we even use this situation, but they also realize that we're basically meeting our obligation as a permit, so they can't step in too much."
It's just a matter of reporting certain data to them, right? I mean,
Yeah.
do you actually need to be sanctioned or, right? I mean, could any one of you get the data
the
and
stuff
send
in.
it in?
To a certain degree, you have to know what you're doing or know what those things mean, because there could be errors in how that's interpreted and what that means. But our permit says that we have to have a Group 2 or a Level 2 operator, and that's what our permit has been in place for 15 years or longer. That's been agreed upon. But I said because Paul had helped design it, I'll say convinced them. I mean, it was even before this lady's time, but the state accepted Paul doing it. Between Paul's knowledge of that and with Scott's Group 1, they said, "Okay, you're doing your job." But Paul wasn't the mayor after 2015, so.
Did you say, may I pose another question? Did you say the data was submitted 2 days after the deadline?
The final one, yeah, I believe it was 2 days. I can look, but it was a few days
It seems
after.
to me that there's a great deal of argumentation we could level at this situation before we write a check for $5,000.
So if we tell our contract operator, who we pay $7,000 a year for, that you just cost us $5,000, she can give us the big middle finger and say, "Screw you," and be done. Then we don't have anybody. It's a precarious situation that we're in, because we can try to bring it up to her, but what David said, it ultimately falls on the city to file it.
When does her contract expire?
I think it's month to month.
Today.
We need to update it.
And then go where for the next operator.
Mr. Mayor,
No, just to update it to show responsibility
You don't
for
need a
who
4-year
files
degree for
and
this, do you?
No, you have to take you have to take the classes,
It's a rubber stamp and be done with it? Basically,
and you take CE every year for like the license for this one I think is 2 or 3 years long. So every 2 or 3 years you have to take so many hours of, like they call them CEUs, continuing education units.
and Scotty's already doing this stuff, as I understand, it just doesn't have the stamp.
He does
Yes and
he
no.
does some of it. He hasn't upgraded to that next level. It's like saying, can you drive a truck like a stick shift,
Yeah.
or a CDL? You've practiced. You've never driven it. You've never gotten your license, but you've played you've played around with it for years,
Yeah.
and you can do it. But if you get pulled over,
Yeah, okay.
it's that type of thing. I mean, not to say he can't do it, but we've paid for him to go to classes. But really, and he took the classes last year. He just has to sit for the exam, and he's just said he's not willing to do it.
Well, how about somebody else, independent counsel or?
That's who this person here is.
yeah.
That's who this lady, and I mean, there's a statewide shortage of these people. The city said the state said if you find somebody that's willing to do it and wants to do it, we'll help you guys get funding to pay for them to go to school. But it's a shortage everywhere. If you go to the west side, or even over to if you just go west of here, or even back to Spokane, east of here to Spokane, or over to Tri-Cities, these people, I mean, they're close to 6 figures.
Yeah.
The west side is probably, 100 and a half, 125, 100. I mean, it's big dollars, but our system is is small. I mean, we have a retired person here who has a group 4. He retired with a group 4. Ours is group 2, so apparently it was 4 times bigger. I don't know. But he let his license lapse. He was interested in helping us, and we talked to the state about that, but then they decided he didn't want to do it. So
The classes,
you go to class to learn how to read and operate a wastewater treatment plant.
well, I get that.
I don't know. I haven't been to them.
Oh, I don't
I mean,
know.
is it something you just go a few times? I mean,
And
does it take?
if you don't, if it was somebody like yourself who had 0 experience, you have to have hours of experience as well. Working like as an apprentice, you can't just be book smart and do it. You have to have. We've worked with. We talked to Keith about. It's actually been on. I've looked at minutes in previous, before, like when Paul was the mayor, so beyond 4 years ago, and it said if anybody else, the number 2 guy ever got the license, one of those licenses, we would pay them more. I told Keith that last year. If we'll pay for your classes, and go do that, and but it hasn't happened.
So you don't have to be a rocket scientist or mathematician to do this, right? I mean, it's something that.
You have to have
Common knowledge.
No, I think you have to have some specialized knowledge. But to be a mathematician, I'm not sure. I haven't done it. I mean, I don't think any joke. It's like, I mean, I don't know. I'm not that mechanical, but I couldn't walk off the street down there and figure out how to, if something went wrong, what that means. You might be able to as a tinker and as a farmer. I mean, playing with machinery. But I think it's probably even more than what you might know as basic knowledge.
So somebody has to be kind of working to as an apprentice or trained a little bit to do this.
Yeah.
And what was it that college you didn't like about AAA? What was their rub?
They have their own issue. The lab has been fined and cited for other things, and then they want the person here. They would prefer to have
On site.
that person. Yes, but they understand that she also covers several other. She's a contract operator for several other municipalities
We're not
in
the
Lincoln
only
County.
ones with these problems.
Some people don't have anybody, so she's their full time. She's the person. So. No, we're in a rock and a hard spot, because if we go back and talk to her, I mean, I'm trying to figure out in my mind how to do it. She might, give us the big, one finger salute and say it's not worth it for me. So, but if we don't, we don't have any other. There's not that. I wasn't made aware of any other contract operators in this area.
And Scotty kind of refuses to do it. We get close to retirement. All of us, I mean, all these factors.
I would say all the above.
Yeah. I mean, is it a money issue? Well, even if you paid them more, it'd probably still be the same outcome.
There's as long as I've been in here and when reading back, there's always been a financial inducement that says if you get this higher level, you will get a pay raise. That's been there for as long as since I've been on the council, and I looked at previous minutes for other reasons, and it came across, and that said that there was that inducement for both Scott and as well as, like in this instance, Keith, who's here now. Yeah, Peter.
How many conversations have you had with Ecology on this issue? Several, or just 1 or 2?
This exact issue in front of us, one
It seems to me that
last Wednesday.
they should look at the situation and be reasonable. 2 days late, a $5,000 fine for 2 days.
Well, remember, we're on double secret probation.
I think they've already given us that leeway.
Yeah, they have.
This is the third, so they gave it, we didn't file,
Yeah, we got
they
9
fined
days.
us.
How many more?
Then they gave us a break, and we still didn't file correctly, and then they said, we're gonna fine you, and we said, wait, give us a chance, we screwed up, we're fixing it. They said, okay. So basically, they're teaching us a lesson, because we apparently, and this is the third time that
Abuse their grace.
I'm sorry?
We've abused their grace
On the surface, it sure looks like that.
after 15
I
months
can't
worth
help
of
but think
infractions.
if they were aware of the situation, they might relent.
They're very aware of the situation, but they also, because it's a fine that has been reduced, it's also in the Attorney General's office and not just in Ecology. So and that's who's levying it. And that's who the previous mayor had to go fight with before in Olympia to get it reduced, or try to get it when we appealed it the first time. And it goes to AGs. And I think Ecology was the one who recommended that they reduce the fine, because they knew the situation we were in, and that that money that we're going to give to them, we could use to help bolster ourselves, to make ourselves better by investing in a person
So
investing.
they
in-
almost helped reduce the fine in the first place.
They
the first
did. I would say
go-around.
that yes, and they were trying to help us help ourselves. And they said, "Well, how many chances do we have to give you guys?" And so,
Yeah,
Comes off.
good point.
I think we have a very good argument that we hired somebody, Ecology knew we'd hired somebody, and
They-
But the contract doesn't say who will file.
I understand that, but
and ecology ultimately
It's
says
implied.
it's the city's responsibility.
The city would have to go after her if you had any action.
or AAA.
Right. That's
That's her.
Casey Manji. But ecology just told me up front, the way your contract's written, it's not very clear. So we can go after her, but chances are we might not be very successful, and we could also burn that bridge and not have a
Yeah.
Group 2 operator. So we're at that's the rock in the hard spot. That and this happened last Wednesday. This is when this I found. I mean, I was all excited because my next presentation I'm going to show you. I was on cloud 9, and then I think I was here in the phone. Or I was,
Slippery slope.
yeah,
What was
Does-
the deadline for
does-
the DMR filing?
it's the 15th of every
15th
month.
of every month.
Does Davenport have a class 2 or a level 2?
I don't know. They might. So Fred Bell is their guy. Each system is different based on the size of what the system is or
Right,
how it's the
right.
complexity.
Right?
So, but now this person, and this is recorded stuff, so it's I guess it can be used against me later too.
What stuff?
And being recorded, this person is signing off that they've been here and they see all this stuff. But ultimately, it's just this. It's a stamp, and so we're paying. So again, we're the beneficiary of someone willing to just do this. Originally, we thought she was going to come here and it was going to be double the amount. It was gonna, so we budgeted for $14,400 this last year, $1,200 a month, and she's like, you know what? I trust Scott. I'll file $600 like we did last year, and
It's kind of like a pencil wave almost.
Tell me what?
A pencil wave. She just writes it off.
yeah. But that's the cost of. We're lucky that it only, I say, costs us $600. If we to maybe Councilmember McClellan's, I don't know if it's the point she's making. If we try to go get somebody from another city, they might charge triple that if they can even do that. Reardon doesn't have it. I think Reardon lost their person. They've been trying to hire somebody. Sprague doesn't have a person. I mean, there's several. It's also the cities are in tough spots because the type of people, the people that have this license can command higher wages, but that might be the entire budget of the city. I mean,
Yeah.
some of these things. So that's the thing, you know. But that's why ecology is willing to work with us now. They worked with us when Paul was here because Paul knew the system. Paul was a mathematician in a sense,
Yeah.
a librarian guy, but I mean, genius smart that helped design that thing. So engineering marvel in his brain. So they agreed that he had the wherewithal to do that. He didn't have the formal training or the stamp or the certification, but
But it was filed.
they yes, and they blessed it. That was fine. So
So does she do everybody's on the 15th at 11:59?
well, that's when they're due. You can file.
So did
Earlier.
anybody else's go bad that?
Not that
Are
I'm
we the
aware.
only
Of.
one, only town in Lincoln? She's working
Well, she
for
doesn't-
several people, right?
Right, but she. I mean, I don't know. Like the first time what happened was we filed on the 15th, the first time after I came in involved with this, in the 15th, and it was heirs, and I said, wait, we tried, and they said, no, it's the 15th, and so that's where. So when Bunny and I had this conversation, and I told Scott too, we can file on the 1st if we want. I mean, it's the last. It's all it is the reporting for that. So some cities that she works with might tell her in her contract that she has to file by the 2nd. I don't know what those contracts say.
Sure. Okay.
So I didn't sign the
Ours is
contract.
the only one that didn't get in.
Well, I don't know that for sure. I haven't asked that, but I don't know that the
Maybe
state is
rest
not
of them didn't
obligated.
have the 3 strikes against them.
Correct. We're the double secret probation is what we.
Is for us.
That's right.
Oh, yeah. It's-
They've given us several chances, so we're on the bad boy watch list.
The bottom line is we've got to come up with $5,000 for this, correct?
Well,
Good.
that's what we're discussing, I think.
Thought it was 2.
No, it's a $5,000 fine.
It's $5,000.
It hasn't come to us in paper yet. She called me last week,
Well, they'll be here.
Yep.
and she just because I called her 2 weeks before to say, hey, I realized that we filed late. I got the notice. I want to see what's going on. I want to talk to you about this and see. And she called back and said, sorry, you know. And I have a good rapport with this. I mean, this lady's, she's been very helpful to us, but they're kind of stuck. I mean, they keep looking at us going, what are we going to do? Like, what gets your attention?
Right.
What makes you guys do what's... So anyone else, like, so if say this happened to Davenport as an example, they would probably write it off as like, oh, it's a simple mistake.
Yeah, what the heck?
Right, because they're on time, every way, you know, or extenuating circumstances, but we don't have that luxury. We don't have we lost
It's
that.
on the radar.
We gave up that benefit of the doubt about 4 times ago.
Has anybody on the council seen the form report?
I've seen some forms but not for a wastewater treatment plant. They're DMRs for something different.
The only question I have is, Mr. Mayor said that there was errors in it. I mean, how do you screw up a report? I mean,
What I understand it,
errors.
what I understand is they take all these readings and because the ecology helped with the program to help us do our job, I guess, to do it, and you have to file. So sometimes if the number might say it starts at 100 and it goes to 150, but your next number starts at 145, but it should start at 151. You have to identify that error and like fix it or address it. That's layman's terms, and that's about as, I mean.
So it's kind of like a computer glitch or just oversight or something of that nature.
Yeah, those types of errors can happen.
Basically kind of a minute thing, really? You know, in the grand scheme of things?
Could be. I don't know enough about it. That was one of the things I told Scott from day one, that I was not an operator and I wasn't going to learn how to be a wastewater treatment plant operator. 'Cause I didn't know that. I mean, I didn't know that stuff. I mean, that's just, to me, it's just, you have a license. So I've tried to put that responsibility on the licensee, because because we've already seen Dylan tried it, and for 15 months we didn't file. So that's where we got in trouble the first time. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, Paul was unique in the sense that he was a non-operator, but knew it. So he had that knowledge to do it. So, real quick. So really, one is, this was a heads up that we're getting this. It's coming down the pike. I don't know when, but I mean soon. It's also part of a bigger thing. For our budget purposes, that's, you know, how do we budget it for next year? Are we going to find somebody else? Do we need to, you know, what do we do to try to alleviate these? Because if we budget for it, it's one thing. When we don't budget for it,
Right.
and especially when it's a fine, we don't think about it.
Shouldn't have to budget for fine. Yeah.
No, but I mean, if we budget for putting money away to have a group 2 person, or, I mean, things like that. No, we shouldn't have to budget for fine.
If we budgeted 14,000 for her, and we aren't paying her 14,000, we could use the rest of that money, maybe.
Except that in my mind, I use that for the BIOS software.
Oh.
Because we didn't have to pay. I mean, that was not budgeted.
Okay.
It's like robbing Peter to pay Paul type of
Gotcha.
thing. I mean, I don't know. From a budgetary standpoint, where this is going to fall, I don't know where it's going to fall in this year. Like if it's going to have a real big impact, if it's going to hurt. I don't know that yet. Really, it's just to tell you guys, hey, this is coming down the...
And
Okay.
to think about
All
a
right.
fail-safe to not obviously allow it to happen going forward.
And, yeah, one thing we should do is stipulate among all the parties whose responsibility
Yeah.
it is to report, and
And
then
a date.
report to other personnel, so we have a confirmation that it's done. Has that
And
been
let's
done
make
yet?
our report date.
We get confirmation when it's done. Every month when it happens, the contract has not been amended to say who is going to file.
Right.
I found that out last Wednesday when the lady told me that, by the way, your contract doesn't say who's responsible for filing. I didn't write that. That was a contract that we had in place. When we had to start paying her, I guess that was last year, the start of last year. So it's been in place for about a year and a half, almost 2 years. But so I need to have a conversation with that lady
Who's been filing for the last several months?
The person,
She
Kat,
has.
our operator, our contract operator.
So that implies a contract, that it's her responsibility.
Between us and the city and her, yes, that's what we're having her do. Between the ecology and the city, they don't
They don't
care.
care.
So someone mentioned earlier, it's between us and her. It's very much between us and her. But as soon as we call her and say, by the way, we just got fined $5,000, you have to pay for that. She might say, sure, that's fine, and adios. I'm not your contract operator anymore, and there's no one else out there. So that's the precariousness of this situation we're in.
She has to be aware of, obviously, that it didn't get filed on time, correct? She has to know that.
She does know that.
She's aware of it because she filed it late.
Okay.
Or refiled it late.
She's the one that refused to file it by the 15th, she's gone.
Yep.
Do we have any hard copy
She breached her
DMRs here?
contract.
I'd like to look at
Any hard copy DMRs?
I don't know.
The city.
Where are they stored?
I think it's all required by computer. I don't even think you're allowed to do it hard
I think
paper
you're
anymore.
right, Nathan. I
Yeah,
don't think
it's
you
all
can.
That's how our stuff at work is. You're not even allowed to send it by hard
They
copy.
changed all their software and stuff in Olympia. They don't accept anything really hard copy anymore,
No.
unfortunately.
The DMRs go to Spokane or Ole?
Olympia, well, the computer system. So
Olympia.
I'm sure it's Olympia. Yeah.
They have sub offices here and there, but I think it breaks down at Olympia.
So that's
Another thing for the budget.
for net. Yeah.
Well, if we have a hard
And just
copy,
yeah,
they have
big
to
picture.
understand.
All right. So
Move on to bad
on that,
news.
so that's bad news, right? But I got some good news too. Show and tell.
Santa is coming.
What's that?
Santa Claus is coming.
Well, with the weather we're getting,
For
he's
some
going to be
people-
here in a couple
some
of
people,
weeks.
it's Christmas and it was snow on the ground at the airport when I landed. So
Well, 30 car
Uh,
crashes in Spokane last
it's
night.
Chris-
5 inches up on the South Hill.
it's Christmas. It's Christmas in October.
5 inches.
Okay. So one of the clarifications in our it's not that great, but I found this next door in the rummage sale room last week, and I told Bunny that we need to commandeer it for a night, and I got this new little thing here.
Should we shut the light off?
Where's the light
Maybe
switches?
if there one light, Janice, will you hit one of the lights and see? I don't know which one it would be, but try it. Start with one. And,
Open your wallets and turn them all off.
There we go.
is
That work?
That better?
No?
This
Yeah.
is a presentation of what, Justin?
So this is our GIS mapping. So we paid, we signed up for the AWC consortium. Last week they came out and started the field work. Treasurer made a comment about the maps being gone. So we had 3 boxes of maps back there that were, some of them were from the 60s, from the old like ponds, and some things were newer plans. So he took a lot of those, took pictures. He walked around for 3 days with Scott for, I don't know if it was all 3 days, but for a lot of those. And he mapped our city, all of our water lines, all of our sewer lines, all of our manhole covers, all of our fire hydrants. He started based on what Scott told him, what he saw with maps, like where it's a 6-inch line or a 10-inch line or a 4-foot or 4-inch line. So we have a lot of these things. It's not
So water and sewer, no gas or?
gas is by Avista.
Yeah, Avista.
So we're trying to see if we can get the layer from because Avista was here last year with MPL. So the guy that was here said he talked his lingo, and they're going to try to get a base layer or some kind of, so we can have this. I realize it's not that. I don't know how to zoom in on this. I don't think I can, but. But the cool thing is, let's see. Yeah, so the white line, there's actually an error here too. You can't see this, but right here. So this isn't the city. This is Colbert's, or this is Donnie Mooney's.
Yeah.
This is not the city. This is where Heather's grandparent, Vic and Pat Meyer, lived here. They're not in the city limits. So the city line, I believe, is right down this middle. So that's something we would correct. But I don't know
Coal
Rather-
Creek is the boundary.
Right.
Yeah, half, the east side is the county and the west side is the city. Yeah, Culverts is up here, here's the school. So the blue lines are, there. And this is, it's not online, it's not on the internet, but we have access to the city. We can also have a dashboard, that's what he called it. We could put like he said on your website, so that would be the website that we have, where people could come in and you can zoom in and see. And we can do a lot of things. I have a legend here. So these little green spots, these are the
Sewer manholes.
water drains is what this says. Water system valves. There's water system valves, there's water drains, water hydrants. So these blue and yellow circles, these are all hydrants. And then he showed me something.
Green should be sewer.
The sewer lines is this orange one.
On the other
Stormwater
side of the tracks.
stormwater culvert is the green, and then the water is the blue. And then he's got a pump in here and culverts, hydrants, fittings.
There we go.
No, but it shouldn't. These was,
The other cool thing is
no, Jackson's not on there yet.
he told us we can do ourselves is we have 2 licenses that we can have like on our cell phones that we can go walk around with GPS on our phone and take a picture, like point and say, right here I'm on a manhole, if he missed one for say, or we added something, point it, take a picture, upload it, and it's there. Through the regionalization meetings that we had, one of the things that came out of it, and I wasn't a part of it, so I don't know how it came out of it, but Eastern Washington University has a program that they were looking for their graduate students or somebody were looking at GIS mapping as well. And we've all said, hey, we'd be interested, and they do it for free. So it all came about last week too, and we said, hey, these guys are here. And this guy was like, oh, they use the same system we do. That's lucky for you because we charge you, they don't. So you can give them all this information and they can come out and they can work with you and stuff too. So we can build on this now quite a bit. This is just just the dashboard. There's still a lot that could be done. A lot of it we can do ourselves as a city. A lot of people, you can't see it very well here, but this is ArcGIS and the county uses it the same thing. But these are the actual boundaries here. Like this is a lot here, right? These are all lots.
That layer is the same layer that you guys would see like on the assessor site for lots. That's that same layer that they pulled off.
Let's see, because I know where I live.
What'd you say, orange marked?
That was a sewer.
Orange is sewer.
The sewer line, yep. And it goes out right out here to this is the pond. You can't see it very well here, but here's where I live. I'll just use my house since I know.
Green is what, water?
Green was storm.
Storm drain.
Usually green was sewer.
But I'll show you one other because there's some cool things. But so I live right here somewhere. Right here.
It's you right there.
So 209 South 5th. That's my address. So that guy. So this you can see. Now the county doesn't even have. The county doesn't. They have for the county doesn't have the cities mapped yet. They have the county. So if I went in some of your farm ground, I clicked on it, like your house, it wouldn't say anything.
The tax sifter would.
Yeah, but the tax right. So they don't. This is basically like tax sifter inside the cities.
Yeah.
So this is my parcel. Now we can go out here ourselves and say where the meter's at, and we can log the meter. The meter is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Some meters I found out, this guy told me, are in the back. Some are in the front, and we can start saying this meter was replaced in 2002. This one was replaced in 1999. This one was replaced in 1950. This one was replaced in 2019. We can go those things, and a lot of those. He said we can do them ourselves.
Water meters or something.
Yeah, water meters. Yeah.
I have places on Bias too, you put the parcel numbers and all that kind of information into Bias too.
That was one thing, yeah, that Janice told me last week when she was doing the water. They were going through it biased. She was doing training with the bills, the utility bills. They were like, well, where's your
Meter numbers.
meter numbers? Like how your serial numbers for how do you know which meter is tied to which property? We don't have that. We have it in one place. We have one place here and one place here type. They're not really connected. So this is something we can do with all this. So this all goes back to that asset management, value planning. I talked to the guy again today and told him I was looking for something, but I have an email here I'll show you because he sent me a sample, and I'll just.
Question while you're looking.
Yep.
Is the GIS mapping process completed or in process? Or when will it be completed? Do we know?
Yeah, I would say it's an ongoing thing. So this is like a base layer, and he took the maps, and he went one night, he stayed at the motel in Davenport, he took these pictures of our maps on some of them, and he came back the next day, he's like, oh, I digitized them, and I put them all, I mean, I did it at night, like, he did it, you know? And so I think that and he's going to send me, he told me today, he thought I might have an email, which I don't yet, but like the documentation, like operation, you know, I mean, they don't just do it and then like walk away. This was just his doing his field work to come out here. Like Nathan said, it was pretty crazy to do this in 3 days. I mean, he had most of this done after the second day. It was like, holy mackerel, you know. And then like the third day he was walking around. So here's a picture. This is what this dashboard kind of looks like. So this here says 6 sewer main lines, 65 lines. There's 28,172 lineal feet of sewer mains, which is this number here, which you maybe see better now. There's 77 manholes. Here's a picture of a fire hydrant that, if you click on one of these icons, this pulls up, right? When you click on it, of the fire hydrant, so you know, oh, that's the fire hydrant at 3rd and Main, or whatever. There's 7 storm water main lines. There's 4,600 lineal feet of stormwater mains. There's 1 stormwater manhole. 53 water main is up here in that corner. 20
Is the 65?
sewer main lines. And I don't know if this is actually complete yet. Like, he just sent me a snapshot. This is from an email. He took a screenshot. But it says we have 38 fire hydrants. So again, this was just, I thought was really cool. You can't see that this is the like a legend. You can't really see it that well, but let's see if I can open it.
And would only the city have access to this map, or could we look it up ourselves? And
Right now, this is only in the city. Like,
Okay.
it's internal. We don't have it out on the web. Like on
Okay.
but we can put the dashboard, he said, to where some of this information is available on the city's website to where the
Okay.
public could access it.
Okay.
I don't know all those details yet.
Still,
but,
that would be awesome.
But this here, like, these are 2-foot main. This light blue is a 2-foot or 2-inch water line, 4-inch, 6, 8, 10. He said again, if we find out later, because he asked Scott, like, do you know where all the, you know, some stuff is Orangeburg, some kind of pipe that was, so some of it's Orangeburg, some of it's concrete, some of it's PVC. Well, if they weren't able to get all of it then, but we find out later when they're digging something around that
You can add it on.
that it actually is Orangeburg there, we can just go update it all ourselves.
Or when we go through and update a block of something, we keep this up to date. There was a 6-inch, whatever, and then you put in 8-inch PVC.
Next time something happens, you just pull
record
up
it,
that
put it
area
on
and
Actually,
find
there
out
was a
exactly
water
what you
leak
need.
up by Paul Gillen's earlier this summer. When they were digging it up, there was an old valve there that Scott didn't even know. He said, I didn't even know this valve was here, and it was old and broken. And because every time they had to turn the water off on our street, on 5th, they had to turn it off like across town. So you had to leave all these, give people notices. Scott's digging up and said, well, we can replace that valve. And he did. And now they only have to replace, well, now we can put that in here. There's a new valve. This is when we put it in. This is what it is. So this is going to help us know, kind of goes with our water system plan. It goes with our, you know, all that stuff. So it's just the start of it, but it just happened really quick, and we're still getting through. But I thought that was some, you know, this is like we can see immediate results on the, you know, this is an investment. We spent some money, and this is what we're getting out of it.
And this is endless as far as the information that you can put in here. Record, like he's saying, record keeping of just the maintenance stuff. Hey, when's the last 3 times that we replaced this, or it was fixed, or whatever?
Anytime we go up and have to dig something, we can go put it in there.
Right.
At the last council meeting, you remember, Bunny asked Scott about it. Paul used to want him to take a picture and write down every single thing when they did it. And over the years, it fell by the wayside. This allows us to do that still too, but also we can, you know, and if Nathan can walk up there and take a
Does any
picture of
this
it.
equipment come with a
And
warranty?
if he wanted
like the
to,
lifespan
and we
of the
could
valves
upload
and
it,
stuff
you know,
like
with that thing.
Are they updating this now? Is that valve in there now? The one in front of Gilliland's?
I'm assuming it would be because that hole is still open.
Yes, it is.
So, and that's, he was here
There's
last
gonna
week.
be
so-
another
these-
one about 10 feet down from it.
Yeah.
As of,
Yeah.
as soon as he digs it
Do
up.
these valves and stuff ever come with
Well, you know,
a
there's a fire
guarantee
hydrant
as
by
far as a certain
Crawford's
amount of
that's had a leak
years?
for
The
Yeah.
valve itself,
Yes.
But
I don't know
The
that.
parts.
anyway,
That was my
So-
question,
So
is
we
if
know
they-
at
we
some
replace
point
it
in
and it's
time
got a
if there's a
warranty on it for
patch
X amount of time and it
every
blows
5
out, we
feet,
have record that
Do
this
we
is when
quit
we put
putting
it in.
patches
All
and
kinds of
replace
stuff
the
like
line?
that.
I heard a guy. So this goes on. This has been going on for a really long time. And I heard a guy at coffee last Friday say, and it wasn't. It was before. Well, Scott might have worked here, but it wasn't. He wasn't talking to Scott, but he lives up on. What's this street where
Yeah.
Wilcox, those guys,
Well, Jim?
Lincoln,
Lincoln.
right up
Up
by
above-
John Adams' house, right?
Up a bit.
They said, "Hey, when are you when are you going to replace this line?" And the guy said, "We are replacing it, 1 foot at a time."
Yeah,
And that was like 15 or 20 years ago. So it's been that's that mentality, or that it's been happening for a while. So do we get a point to do it? I mean, these projects, I know
I realize.
Odessa I just saw it last year. They got a grant for $750,000 for some water lines. It's expensive stuff. When we did the street project last year, we did some water line replacement because we already had it opened up. We did it on the cheap, and it was, I don't know, because we already had it opened and we didn't have to dig anything, and they were going to pave over it. But we with Scotty and Keith, and they might have had some help. It was $30,000 or $40,000 for just the pipe. Not, again, somebody already dug it up,
For how long?
the whole street.
Oh,
I'd just like to make a recommendation. In the future, going forward, everybody here, you guys are young enough, is that any streets that you get grant money or you want to pave or fix, that's taken under consideration what's underground to replace at that time, instead of just putting in a new street, spend all the money, and then go turn the damn thing back up.
No?
That's part of the program, is that you figure utility, what you sure, whatever, and take a hard look at that.
Yeah, no.
Replace it before you go.
Very,
Do everything you can while you're there.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened with the Second Street project. Kind of came out, say after the fact, but that was an epiphany that happened during that. Said, wait, it's already cut up. Someone's already dug it for us. They're going to pave it again. We should just. And it was kind of a scramble, I think, because that's where we didn't budget it for it. And we had to reopen the. But so no, I think David, that's a great. It's a great recommendation to consider. It goes back to also then having the dollars set aside for that in reserves. Anyway, so yeah.
Pictures of that installation, if we need to submit pictures to the GIS process.
That's
Thank you.
great,
Yeah,
Need light on.
sure.
Let
Thank you,
there
Janice.
be light.
So, anyway, a little bit of show and tell, kind of exciting that there's some progress. There is some progress.
And Friday, he mentioned something about the EWU coming out to do some stuff. Friday the 18th, I'm going to Sprague, and the people that are doing that are actually coming out to lend us equipment and train on it to then go forward with doing more stuff. So, like Justin said, it was kind of weird timing where we had those guys come out and do this, and then Eastern said, hey, well, we'll do some more. So Friday the 18th, I'm going to go get trained on how to do some more, and then we'll probably discuss as a council or whatever we want to go forward with, collecting more data even with Eastern stuff for no cost.
Cool.
And they're getting to where I think, as Justin said, it just goes on a cell phone. We won't even necessarily need equipment. We have the license for it. Whatever you got to do to get on your phone, you got GPS reception, and you off and running. You could probably collect every lamp post and sidewalk corner and whatever.
Take a picture like on an iPhone, even if your phone's not on, like it's on airplane mode. It still tells you where you're at. Like I always take pictures on the airplane, and it will say, Napa Valley or something. You're like, how did it know? Like my phone is off. But so even if we don't have, like if I have, if you have AT&T here or Sprint, they don't work very well. I have Verizon so. But when you go back somewhere to download it, it'll still have all that. So you don't have to actually have like cellular data. And the cool thing is, like the guy said, we can do as much if we want ourselves. And if we had high school kids that wanted community service projects, they open up on their cell phone. We just, because we have 2 licenses, you know, you just go in there and they do it and they walk around and then they come download it. And so there's a lot of things that we can do. Really, it, you know,
I think
As a
what you
city.
can map on there, as far as what I understand, is pretty much endless.
he just said too that actually the cemetery, they just got into Pullman Cemetery. They did every plot in the cemetery. And so when someone came in and said, where is the Johnson family plot? They could say it's right here. And it's all just, you know, so some of that there too. So there's a lot of endless possibilities. We can kind of go as far as we want, and we can do it on the, you know, volunteer basis. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can decide to do going forward, what we need, but it's a good start. And
Wonderful.
This is the beginning of an asset management report.
that's right.
Yep.
That's right.
It's a start. We're
And I,
cataloging every asset of the city,
That's right.
and we can break it up into different systems and have our asset management report.
That's right. We know if it's the sewer line, all the infrastructure. It's basically mapping our infrastructure.
and I feel like going forward, would you agree that there's just a very small fee that going forward with this stuff? We've paid this amount of money now, but that's kind of in the past. Once we spend the money that we budgeted to do this, it sounds like we can do a lot of it ourselves going forward for no money. No out of pocket. I mean,
And we can stay with the
As far as-
consortium, and right now, like someone earlier said, like we're tier 2, so we're kind of middle of the pack. We can drop down to a base level. It just has some consulting, like if we want to upgrade something, or
Yeah.
so we're not tied to them like we're not beholden to these guys. But if we want their help, we can pay for those hours.
but we can even do a lot of stuff ourselves in between.
Right.
Was there GPS coordinates on that map? I failed to see.
I think they were Latin longs, weren't they?
So but you know, some things, if there's a special main or point, you know, using GPS coordinates to find. I don't know if that's a biggie, but I know at the airport we use those.
That's foreign language. That's not even French to me. That's something else. So I don't know all the.
But you know, you punch in the coordinates.
Yeah.
And it'll take you there. And a lot of the locators, not unlike a surveyor, uses stuff. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's a good idea what you're doing and stuff. I just wonder if those are imprinted on the same thing.
They get their data from their base layer from ESRI, which is a national provider. They work with the county and ArcGIS, and they use Survey 123. These are all these things that he told me to put on my phone. Survey 123 and
Esri, Park Reader.
I downloaded them. I was like, oh, cool. I don't know. A collector is one thing. So these are things like these apps that then but it's like the Survey 123 is also what the people at Eastern, I think, are using. And so it's all uniform, and they all talk this stuff. It's like all, so, no, and then, yeah, you can put in, I think that's what some of those things you can do, the longitude, latitude, or a GPS coordinate, it'll take you there, or you, like reverse engineering or engineering, you know. So.
Well, it's helpful for, to get to go, and in the future, when Scotty's gone, or, whatever, new person, where's this?
Well, this guy said that. He said, you're not alone, because when I told him, I said we had some maps, and I said, I don't know what the maps are, because there's a lot. I said, some from the 60s of the old, not even the sewage plant, the old ponds,
The 50s.
Yeah, it was that. And then I said, about 90% of it is in Scott's head. There's probably 8 or 9% in maps, and then the other 1% we might have on a digital drive from when we did that street project. And he said, you're not alone. That's what, that happens. But that's also planning as well. Because that's what I always said. If Scott hits the lotto tomorrow, are we screwed?
Yeah.
The thing that I said when Scott was on vacation 2 years ago in Iowa, and Keith called him and put him in within like 6 inches of this line at our building, and I was like, that's cool, but it's also scary, because if Scott doesn't answer the phone in Iowa, then we were going to be 2 weeks out from, Kaiser wasn't going to go out digging around. We were going to let, getting that on paper digitally and stuff now is, getting it written down.
That, and then, your comm lines, communication lines, and your gas, can't think of anything else really offhand. But get that overlaid on there too, of course, that'll be grand.
Yeah, no, and the stuff that MPL did for Avista, I think it's a file that we can even get as part of our agreement, our franchise agreement and stuff. They might have even asked us last year if we wanted it. We probably said, what are you talking about? We don't. So, no, I said, he said the cemetery thing. I mean, that's we talk about the cemetery reader board and try out, how do you, we have the original books that like Bunny pulls out a book and you can see where the plots are. And if you can put that on that, I mean, that's pretty cool too. So, okay. Town Square Wall Project. Tim, you want to tell us how things went last week? Or this says wall, but I guess it's the Town Square
project
in general. In 2 minutes or less. How's that?
Well, as you see, the wall has been being worked on since Monday. Brandon Foley is working on that currently. It's said roughly for the next 3 weeks. Work his way up to the parapet, and that'll all be sealed. This past Saturday, we rented an excavator for the project, and a local resident, Dustin Johnson, he donated his time. He said he'd do an 8-hour day. We did it in 6.5 hours to grade and subgrade all the stuff for where the pavers go and the rest of the rough bark mulch areas, and we got the 7 trees planted. All 7 trees have been sponsored, tying into the Town Square project fundraiser that we did for the street dance the Friday before Fall Festival. We raised over $9,500 in selling pavers, the trees, the park benches, and general donations that Friday and Saturday, and it's probably going to be over 10,000 by the time that those donations from those 2 nights come in. So the next things that are happening is the underground utilities, the electrical, the sewer, and some water, working with Kaiser of getting that plan formulated so that those things can be done and stubbed out before, obviously for the paver area, the next thing would be bringing in gravel and sand. The pavers will be laid sometime, coming out of the spring next year. But
Is it new pipe for sewer and water and all?
yeah, it's gonna have to be new, yeah.
So we'll map that. It's not on there yet.
Yeah, okay, it saves the guy a lot of heartache later.
Yeah, that's right.
So I've heard nothing but positive comments of it, that there's, actually stuff happening there that you can see besides a plan, and where I don't have the exact figure, and I'll just rough it because it's going to all be posted on social media. I'll know a little bit more tomorrow when I get with the treasurer for the chamber of what exactly the exact total for that challenge grant, but we are over $25,000 that we've raised. We're almost to the 30, and I have no worries about us meeting the goal and then some by the end of the year. So we went to the conference for Inovia on Monday night. A couple of people involved with the project. I shared this stuff on social media. They came out here with KHQ and did kind of a little videos and interviews with some people that are tied into the town and the project and the Opera House, because that organization has given money to the Opera House about 10 or 12 years ago. And the video was about how Inovia, with them giving funds, how it inspires generosity amongst the community. It was a cool little 3-minute video. 500 people were there, and you could tell people were captivated by it. It opened the show. It was pretty heartfelt. I felt humbled. People were coming and asking about the project after. So that's where we're at on that. You'll see the rest of the remnant wall being fixed, and then some little more activities before the real freeze starts to come, and then we're not going to do anything until the spring. So that group is recalibrating the last couple phases and how they're going to take place coming into the spring, into the summer, with the anticipation of having that done next summer. So that's where we're at.
Cool.
So you can follow along on the Harrington website, the Town Square page. There's a page on there, or Instagram, or Facebook. We're updating all on there. But it was that street dance was. People are already asking when we could do another one next year, and it was very successful towards that project as a fundraiser. So I mean, it was overwhelming the amount of support we got from that.
Yeah, it's all good. Maybe you've thought about it, or maybe I missed something here, but like Davenport and a lot of places are going to selling like a brick. Somebody donates a certain amount of money, get their name on a brick, and that's always know if you guys entertain anything.
Yeah, we're
It's being done.
We're selling
It's-
engraved paver bricks, and at a certain level of some of these corporate sponsorships or tree donors, bench donors, like the park benches are going to get an engraved plaque with the inscription that they want on it. The same thing with the tree donors. There's going to be paver bricks that say who the tree donors are. Instead of doing placards at the tree location, we're doing it that way. Same thing with the corporate sponsors.
So what do you donate to be a corporate?
There's
What's
three
the level?
three levels, $500, $1,000, or $1,500 to be a corporate sponsor, and we have 7 at this time. And I applied for another grant with Northwest Farm Credit Services that will know the result in early December. That's tied into the grant that it would piggyback on it, like they're tied into each other with a different company, with a different organization. That's about what I have in a quick little period.
Cool. All right.
It's exciting, getting exciting.
Yep. The excitement is building.
Yes.
All right. The next 2 items: set public hearing for revenue sources and levy setting, as well as also set a public hearing on preliminary budget. The next council meeting. So, unfortunately, I won't be here. I'm going to be out of town, but Tim is also on the budget committee and Mayor Pro Tem. So,
I'm not going to be here either. I was just kidding.
so I'll work with Sherry and Tim as a budget committee. We'll make sure we're all ready to rock and roll for then. Do you guys, last time we had a meeting 2 weeks in between on the budget stuff. Do you think there's necessary to have another one?
Yes.
Is a full
For
council?
the full council, or
No,
just like
the
us?
committee.
I'm asking as a council, as a workshop, like a council workshop, or not. We can, because we have obviously November for the preliminary budget, so the committee can get together before then. That's 4 weeks and hash things out and even present stuff, preliminarily that will be formally unveiled at that hearing. And then we also have them between November and December meetings, and even sometimes I know we've adopted the final budget after, up to the end of the year or something if we've had to. So,
Usually with the December meeting.
right. So,
But there's a pre-hearing the first Monday in December.
okay. So we're going to set then, just I guess as a point, we're going to set those hearings for the next council meeting. Do you guys want the next council meeting? So we started the September and October ones at 7 o'clock instead of 7:30. It's already 9:33 right now. So do you want to start the November meeting at 7 o'clock like we have been, or do you want to do 7:30?
7 seems more convenient to me.
I like 7.
I
Go with
prefer
7.
7 o'clock.
Okay. And
I'll
then
probably be late every time I go with 7.
I think too, so these are temporarily that way, but I'll be the third one. We can decide like if we want to make it
We've
official next year, like starting
Draft an ordinance ready for you to pass it.
if we want to change it permanently to 7 o'clock. And we can also, like in harvest, sometimes we've started later, so there's always like the anomaly, we can do that, but if we like 7 o'clock better, bigger picture, so, okay, these will both be then at the next meeting, and we'll have that meeting at 7 p.m. All right, that ends our regular stuff. We had a couple additions.
I had one thing too I wanted to add
Yep,
when it's time.
okay. Do you want to tell us what it is, or do you want to keep us in suspense?
Regarding a building permit.
Oh, okay. Building permit. And I had a couple additions that after Sherry. Sherry had the budget. She had some budget stuff she wanted to talk about, so.
I just wanted to give everybody a rundown on my little work here. I went through the revenue and the expenses books and put everything into a spreadsheet with the latest entries for monies coming in or going out for each account. And then today I harassed Bunny, and no, I didn't harass her. I talked to her, and she let me know the payment period, like annually, quarterly, monthly, as needed, or for revenues whenever the state decides to send us money, that kind of thing. And the next phase, I think, is going to be involving the two of you and start actually putting some numbers.
We have 5 years worth of that stuff too,
Yes,
together.
I have
These
that.
figures are what again, please?
I went to there's revenue books and expenses book that I took all the numbers out of what was budgeted and what has been either allocated or received so far this year in those books. Does that help?
Yeah, that's, thank you.
To piggyback off of that too, and this will be budget, but we just got a notice today from the county that the transfer station fees are going up 2.1% next year. So that's for our garbage.
Yeah.
Bunny, that's the letter I don't know if did you open it?
No, I didn't.
Oh, that's the letter you had in my stack.
1%.
2.1, yeah. They
With the tipping fees.
annual increase implemented by Lincoln County Transfer Station. The rate increase of 2.1% was adopted by resolution of the Board of County Commissioners,
Gotta pay for that new tipping form.
and it's effective February 1st. I'll give this to you, but I mean, this is just what I just read it.
Just built a new tipping form. New asphalt and concrete.
So do those pass through our collection agency or collection company, or
It can. I mean, they obviously, they pass that to us, so we decide how we want to do that. Do we absorb it? Can we absorb it? Do we pass it along? I would say, again, the general theme that I've seen since I've been here, I mean, any agency or any utility, whether it's Avista, it's the county, everyone's rates increase every year for various reasons. So, yeah.
What date did that go into effect again?
February 1st of 2020. I mean, I say it's a budget thing. It just came today or whatever, and so it's something for us to, I mean, we have to, when we allocate what our costs are, we'll just, whatever we did last year, we'll increase by 2.1%, which is part of it's an estimate because we don't know what people's weight's going to be, but we have enough years worth of data. Can you pass that to the clerk, please? So that was that. Also, I guess it's kind of budget stuff too, but bigger picture. Last meeting we talked about the fire district. We found the policy that was written in 2003 for city employees to go on call, to be allowed to go, and we pay their wages. We don't pay overtime. We don't pay weekends, nights, evenings, holidays. So that we paid the employee overtime, but the fire district's going to reimburse us because we paid it on their assurance that if it wasn't kosher, they'd reimburse us for it. So that's there. The other thing the fire district brought up today, or I talked to a couple of the commissioners on the way in. They had a meeting last night, and I think you were there too. Scott was there. Is potentially the fire district is interested in trying to incorporate the city of Harrington into the Lincoln County Fire District. So right now it's like a donut. The Lincoln County Fire District is everybody except for the city of Harrington. We have an interlocal agreement with them, so we don't pay as city of Harrington residents. We don't pay at our houses if we're in a town within the city limits. We don't pay fire district tax. And so we have an interlocal agreement with them, but even though the fire district building is in city limits, we give them free water and free sewer. No. Yeah, they pay for trash. We give them free water, free sewer. And it's been kind of a gentleman, they don't charge us. So they said, I think the rough estimate, somebody did some calculations, they said about $17,000 would be generated from the taxpayers in the city of Harrington. But they're also considering starting to charge us a fee. where they would start paying us for water and sewer, but they would charge us an annual fee. I think most of the other cities are between $15,000 and $25,000. So, and we've had that agreement for a long time. You know, this gentleman's agreement, if you'd call it that, or general person's agreement, for politically correct, if you're a general person. So I don't know why it never was brought up before, but it kind of came up with this other stuff, with this paying overtime and stuff, and so I said, well, if that's what you. So they're going to talk to the county. Ann Fillion, who is the treasurer or the secretary, just got information from the city of Moses. Medical Lake just did the same thing. It would have to be a vote of the city. Nothing would change in terms of their services, but I'm just telling you this now because they're going to look into it, but it'll probably be something in the next few weeks that we'd have to sign out. We'd have to buy into. We would want to say that we want to be incorporated, because right now we pay money for the fire truck that we have in there, and we put money away every year for that. But so it's perfect timing for budget time, and they know that if something's going to go on a ballot, it has to be filed by December. So I told them I would tell the council tonight, and they need to get more information, that we would talk about it in November and December. But
What's the deadline for the ballot?
they didn't know exactly, but it was somewhere in December. It's kind of like the school bond, the school bond that's in February. And that might be too soon, but they're looking into it, and they're going to present something. They're going to, I guess, bring something to us as well.
Is there something the constituents of the town, they would vote on this?
The city constituents would vote. Us as taxpayers would vote on it. We'd have to vote it in if we.
They want to incorporate it, start collecting tax from the owners here, and then also charge the city another.
No, we would have to collect that tax to be able to.
The city would not be obligated anymore. There would be no. Right now,
not charging the city anything after that. I get you.
Right now, it's the same with like Lincoln County Sheriff's Office. We pay them $25,000 a year or something, right?
Yeah.
It would be the same as we contract with them. Right now, we technically contract with them, but the contract is for
free
water and sewer.
They want to make it so that the city of Harrington is inside District 6, which it correct as of right now is not.
And I asked them
City of
why
Harrington is
it
not
never.
District
Why I
6.
asked why wasn't it?
Almost all the towns are like that.
Okay.
I asked why it happened that way, and I said, why was the city... Originally, the city had a fire department at some point. That's why we have a fire truck. That's why we have that fire truck, and we have the old one that's in front of the shop right now. At some point, like in the 60s or 70s, we did not have a fire department, so we started contracting with the fire district. I don't know. So that's where that came about, and they said because that was the rural district. So Odessa right now has two. They have a city fire. They pay for a city fire department, and then they have their rural one.
So we have city firemen and then rural firemen, different firemen.
I don't know if they're different. They might be the same, but they
They're
have
the same.
but they have different turnouts and stuff, because you have like the turnouts for like the house fires versus like the wildland fire stuff. So I asked, from a city of Harrington's perspective, is this body right here? It would benefit the city if it was incorporated into the district, because it would relieve the city of that onus of whatever agreement we have. As a taxpayer, it would mean that we pay more as a taxpayer, but they also might decide to say they're going to start charging us some money to be our fire department. So they're going to start charging the city. If they start charging the city money, are we going to pass it on to our taxpayers? So,
See, that's what I was asking.
but if they incorporated into it, then it wouldn't be a double charge.
Or are they just looking for, are they looking for more money, or what's the deal? Because, how many fires in town are there?
It's fires, but it's also ambulance services.
That's true.
And they're not obligated to have EMS.
Are they going to separate the two, or are they going
I don't think so.
to... You're on the fire department, right?
We both are, yeah. We're both EMTs.
Oh, okay. So, that's a biggie, the EMT, the paramedic, or EMT.
It's
I don't know exactly how that system's tied in. I know EMS and fire.
are separate because we call ourselves
Separate.
Harrington EMS. But
Yep, and I
It's
do not.
gonna be
Would they still
funded
charge
more
a Harrington
fire,
resident for a
I
trip
don't
to the
see.
hospital if we were incorporated, or is that what you're saying you don't know yet?
This EMS is way over here. This is just fire.
Yeah, I think they're just drafting it, and it can't. I don't know why it blew up like last month. I guess is when it, and I don't know the history of why it was never, you know, it kind of blew up. And I
Well, then what's the problem? Why all of a sudden now is what you're looking at?
what came about of it was that we have this agreement with our employee, but it was about paying city employees to go on those calls, and so we said. It was my call. I mean, I talked to both Ann Fillion, who's the secretary of the fire district, and I talked to Bunny, who's our clerk, and said, historically, how have we done this? And they said, we do it this way. Scott said, nope, we do it this way. So I said, well, I'm going to take the historic institutional knowledge from the district, their secretary, and I'm going to take the clerk, and I'm going to believe them. Well, Scott became upset and called the fire district, and then called the commissioners, and one of them the chair of the commission called me and chewed me out for an hour and told me, you know, all this crazy stuff. And I said, that's fine. I don't know. And I said, you know me. I walked into this. So, and it sounds like there's been brewing for a while, but it never got dealt with.
Oh yeah, Scott's been here for 37 years and
38, yeah.
yeah, 38.
No, that part hasn't. But I just think that there's a fire district because their building is inside our city district, but they don't serve us. But then they say most of the ambulance. There's just this tension between the district and perceived tension. I don't know. I didn't know there was tension before a month ago when I got.
There's tension now.
There, which
Well, I don't know.
yeah. So I told them, hey, if you guys want to consider that, bring it forward to us so we know. But it sounds like either if the city. If it goes to vote and it's something the city just doesn't want, we'll probably, from a budget perspective, we need to consider it because we might start getting a charge, like we pay Lincoln County Sheriff, we might start getting a charge, and we'd have to study that to figure out what's the pro rata share, how many calls are actually in the city. There's only been there was 2 fires this year, and there was 1 last year that were in the city limits. This was a light fire season, so there might have been 5 fires total, and 2 of them happened to be in the city. It's not normally 40%. I would say it's probably about 10%, but that's based on my raw ignorance. Just
Call it practice.
So just stuff for consideration again as we go through our budget process. We're gonna have to figure that out. The other thing too, and Michael brought this up earlier for the budget, and I was this morning I had this an epiphany. I was at a hotel in Salt Lake City, and I was thinking about tonight, and we go forward, and I've been joking with the clerk quite a bit in the last few months about budgeting, or like I say, hey, it's in the budget. Like if it's in the budget, we can do it. And she said, well, wait a second. Just because it's budgeted doesn't mean we have the money yet, or money yet typically, because it depends when that falls. And I said, well, okay, well, I kind of likened it to like a rainy day funds and reserves, and it's like living paycheck to paycheck is a citizen.
Yeah.
Do we like in general, is it good to live paycheck to paycheck? I think most people say no, and that's kind of. But how do you fix it? You build up your reserves, right? And we tried to do that. I mean, there's small parts to it, and we did a little bit this last year in the budget, and there's been other budgets. And I think just going if we go into budget season, we need to think about building those reserves. So when we decide to budget for something that we want to pay for, we don't have to rely on we can't pay it until we get that check. When Sherry said that check only comes, every 4 months or every 3 months, or it only comes comes 3 times a year, comes twice a year.
Right.
So again, it's just that's a big picture thing of thinking, and it's not going to happen. We can't do it in 1 year, right? You can't just all of a sudden sock away $100,000 in each extra fund. I mean, whatever it is. It's just, but it's building it. Each year it's just it's taking one, like eating an elephant, one bite at a time. Just keep plugging away at it. So as we go into our budget season and do that, it's just something to think about of trying to build our reserve so we don't have to, if we decide to budget for it on a project, we're not so strapped when it comes to time next year that we're like, we can't pay for it yet, this type of thing. So, and then my last thing was the IAAC. Did you get approval or anything?
Did not get approval
Okay.
to do it.
Okay, I remember what that was. Okay, so
Said
Sherry
you
though.
can go, but we're
right.
not going to be able to send you.
Yeah. So Sherry's going to go, and she signed up for it, and we have money budgeted for that. So to go to that conference. So I know you got your conference fee paid for,
I
right?
reserved a $62 motel room.
Right. No, but your conference fee is a scholarship.
It is.
Yeah, so we don't, so we'll cover those, we'll cover that, we have a budgeted amount, and I'll work with Bunny and figure that out, but for your hotel room, because they provide meals and things like that, but so she's gonna go to that, which is great. I went to that last year, so I think just each person, each year we get more on that.
Where's it held this year?
Wenatchee, it's always in Wenatchee. This, I think, the 30th year,
It's at
31st
the
year.
convention center.
Yeah, so I think it's a good thing, and I would just each year, it's in 2 weeks, or at the
22nd to 24th.
of October, so end of this month, so 2 weeks from now. So I'm saying that's too late, but something I would, for each of us, whether it's one person a year, two people a year, to start knocking that off too, because it opened my eyes, and I learned a lot. I mean, it helped me see things different, just see different things, so.
I would appreciate your input on sessions.
Sure, we can talk about that offline here. October 22nd through 24th. Yeah, I can talk to you about it afterwards. There's some logistic things if you want to, if that's something you're interested in doing. But I can talk to you offline about that.
IAAC stands for,
Infrastructure, accountability.
a little louder.
Infrastructure. It's about. Yeah, I don't. It's it's one of those state acronyms.
Nice acronym.
It's one that I can never remember.
Infrastructure Assistance something council.
Is it IACC or IA? Infrastructure Assistance
Conference.
Coordinating Council.
There you go.
It's IACC.
IACC, correct. Sorry.
I couldn't think of the first C.
Yeah, coordinating, and it's so yeah, it's always that weekend or week. It's actually midweek. It's like Tuesday through Thursday. It's not very convenient for people that have regular lives, and so, but it's always that time. And it's always in Wenatchee, and it's always that time period, that Tuesday through Thursday or something. So.
I'm so glad I don't have a regular life.
I said it's not convenient. I'm not saying. So, and then, Madam Clerk, you had something on a building permit question?
I had a gentleman that applied for a building permit nearly a year ago. He came in the other day, said he decided not to build, and he was liking a refund. I looked through the building permit, I didn't see any provision for refunds. I said I would take it to the council.
How much was the building? I'm sure we did some work on it, right?
Oh, sure, we had to process it, and
Yeah.
he paid for it, and, it's kind of moot as far as I'm concerned. It was his choice not to do it.
And didn't he ask you to credit it to his water bill?
He didn't do that.
Yeah, right, yeah. We can talk money on that too, but yeah, that's not, because usually too, you know what, no, because if you don't, I know in municipalities that we work in, with our builders at the bank, if you don't get a refund if you decide not to, and you have a certain amount of time. If you don't do it within a year,
Right.
you actually you have to start over and pay for it again. So, I think we'll stick with that. Is
How
that,
much money are we talking about? Do we
She
know?
wasn't sure.
I
Hundreds
can
or
look, but
tens?
I would say it's around $100, but.
yeah, and we had time into it, processing it, both office time and probably city maintenance
It's
crew.
not like we really
you know.
make any money off that anyway, do we?
I don't know about that, but that's, maybe we need to, when we make a decision, just make
For a
a
year?
notion on the permit that they're non-refundable.
Yeah.
I think
That'd be a
the
good
sentiment of
call.
the council is
Yeah.
not to,
Right.
or I should say most of the council.
My sentiment is we should make at least a gesture to pay maybe part of it. If we haven't specifically stipulated that the building permit is not refundable, then we might have some responsibility there.
I think we should make sure that it is not a case by case and either say that it is refundable if no work has been done or not refundable, black or white.
What's the ordinance? Is there an ordinance on it?
That I don't know.
We don't get too many building permits.
Yeah.
Usually they're additions or something, but I mean,
Some guys building big garages behind their houses next to Methodist Church.
Sets up the building code and.
How's it going?
There's nothing in there.
Oh, this guy? I was trying to think of who.
yeah, I don't know. I just know other municipalities. I don't know if it's. I know the building
Concrete's
permit
almost
itself
ready.
says that if you don't start within a year, you have to do it to start over. It's silent on a non-refundable, but it also, I think it's implied that there's also costs that go into the fees of the time of processing it, even if so. We don't get the tax dollars off of it, any incremental value and assessed value, but we still, yes.
Since we are within Lincoln County, could we check with Lincoln County and see how they handle it? And go on that to some?
I'm sure they're going to handle it the same way we just.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Spokane County, you do not get a refund, period.
Yeah.
I mean, we could
You
go
buy
on the
it,
lines
you
of
don't
Lincoln
build,
County,
it's on you.
Well, in the future, we'll probably write that in.
since we are.
Yeah.
I was gonna say maybe we could update the ordinance.
Yeah.
My opinion is that we do not refund it this time,
Mine as well.
and then look into it closer going forward.
That was Scott's feeling also.
So if
Feel,
next,
go ahead.
if next meeting we could have the ordinance out here where we know the number.
I really
Then we
need to
can-
let the man know. I hate to wait another month.
No, that's not, no, I'm not saying that.
So, Peter, I would recommend that you make a motion to make a good faith gesture to refund part of his money. And if you get a second in a vote, because I think what I'll tell you is just hearing straw vote is it's probably going to go 4-1 if you get a second. So the rest of the council, I don't think is interested in doing that.
I'd feel more comfortable on the point if the council members knew what the amount of money was. That's
Shouldn't matter
involved.
if it's $10 or
That
$1,000
shouldn't matter.
bucks.
It's the principle.
That's, yeah,
It sort of
it
depends
really
on
shouldn't.
how much effort the city has
I
made.
was gonna tell you,
Do
I
we-
think, right
did-
now.
This building inspection, would this have been performed by the building inspector?
It's not an inspection, it's a building
No,
permit.
Permit. I see.
And Scott would go look
Those
at
are
it.
separate items then.
Totally different items.
Oh, yeah. An inspection costs a lot more.
If it's internally, it's only $50. If we don't have to go outside to the guy and he's somewhere else. He's like in Washtuck, not
You
Washtuck.
thought about going back to
Oh,
the county? Or,
really?
like, does the city have a contract or anything, or do
No.
you just call them as needed?
So that guy used to work for Grant County. His name's Tim Unruh. He's now in city of Othello, and so Lincoln County does not have a licensed building inspector. Chip was not licensed, and the new guy, Ryan, is not
Ryan
licensed.
must be licensed.
He's not. I know.
10,000 people and we don't have a light.
This-
Okay.
I know
county
Chip
does-
wasn't.
The county doesn't have somebody, but that doesn't mean the cities don't. But so that's why the county doesn't have
He's
it.
still not done.
Looks like about
Well, he might have now, but he
That's what I'm saying.
$223.
223?
And it was taken out in July of 18.
Oh.
So it's over.
It's already over a year too.
Do we have an ordinance that says that building permits expire
Yep.
after?
It says, permits become null and void if work or construction authorized is not commenced within 120 days, or if construction or work is suspended or abandoned for a period of 1 year at any time
There you go.
after work is commenced.
Good thing I made progress.
Yep, yep.
So,
So I would say that since that's 120 days is only 3 months or 4 months, that it's null and void, and so
He wants that against his water.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Was any work initiated, do we know? There are two stipulations there. Initiating work and
and stopping work.
cessation of work.
Yeah.
I hope that he wouldn't.
Do you know the address or who is it?
I have no idea who it is or where it is. But I'd hope if he had started
prefer not to
construction
know.
that he's not asking for his building permit back.
No. Yeah, and that individual has cost the city more money then any building permit fees is ever been paid anyway, so. He hasn't started, there's been no construction commenced. It's-
Does the fact that he is charged it cost the city money have anything to do with the building permit?
No,
Okay, then how does it apply?
that's my personal opinion
I see.
as a non-voting member of this council.
All right.
What do we need to go to move forward with this? Do we need a motion and vote, or is it a general consensus?
Well, I would say the way that permit is set up right now,
Yeah,
It works
that
clear?
clearly
it's,
says
Okay.
it.
it's,
Done
Over
deal.
and
it's done.
Yep.
'Cause
Perfect. Yeah,
That's
I
how-
agree
The
with
language is clear.
Yeah.
That text changes my position dramatically.
Yeah, yeah.
This changed
we finally had something in
everything.
place. All right.
I have one thing I forgot.
You know it's 10:01, right?
I would like, tying in back to the town square and the street dance, with some of the funds that have come in that were raised for the street dance, the group that's for that project putting it on has looked into having thank you cards made to thank the people, and it comes with envelopes that we would put together to mail out to those people. Would the city be interested in paying the postage for that, since it is a city-owned property? Like if I were to bring them in, it would just be one stamp on each one. And we're roughly at 100 right now, so at 55 cents times that, and it's not like I would bring them all in one day, but how do we do
I thought
that?
you said you had money left over already.
Yeah, but that will go into the project for the grant.
I don't know, I think they will too.
We never anticipated that, okay, why should those funds be used to pay for postage?
Because we city donate.
Well, you
Donated
paid, the other money went to
$350.
pay for postage.
Yeah, that was for all the invites, so.
Right, so that's still postage.
But that's already all been spent for that postage.
Okay, but you have extra money. I mean,
This is just specifically for thank you.
Put it down for
The city has already put in a fair chunk of money.
and you have extra money left over.
Yeah, there is.
So the extra money left over from this street dance project and paver sales to send out thank you cards is, so it's not really extra money because
No.
there's still outstanding bills that go along with that
Well,
project.
There's not outstanding bills. We don't have to send out thank yous. I've been sending them out personally before the street dance on my own, like me just as a regular person sending them out, like
Right.
for some of the corporate sponsors before the street dance.
Well-
So I'm just specifically talking about what came from that.
I think when we presented it last time, or what I presented or helped present, was there was a list of several things that included the mailers going out and this and that. I would
The thank
tack,
yous weren't in there.
they weren't in there, but I would tack that on to be the same type of thing as a mailer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's postage and things like that. So I think if you have $200 left over from that, that's still along, in my opinion.
No, I agree with you,
So I would just,
but I was looking at it as that's going extra towards the project. That's why I was asking that.
How much money are we talking about?
Well, they're still coming in, but it's roughly about 100 of them right now that I would put
So-
together, and they would need postage for them.
Probably 50 to 75 bucks for envelopes, paper,
Not
and
envelopes,
stamp.
no. I'm just asking for the postage part.
right.
No.
But so point of clarification though, so no matter what, if you give $100 to the project, that counts as $200, right? It gets matched.
In the grant.
If you give $55 from the money that's sitting there already, that gets matched too, right? It's in-kind donation.
Sitting, what do you mean sitting there already?
The $200 you have left over that hasn't been spent.
Yes.
So if you give $200 cash, that counts as $400. If you spent the rest of that $200 on things like this, that still counts as $400.
Correct.
Since you still have $200 left over, roughly, I would say, in my opinion, that you would apply that money towards those types of things.
Instead of it going towards the grant,
It's still going towards the grant.
it's not going towards the grant.
thought
It's outside
It's
of
not
it.
in-kind contributions?
It's no,
street
that's not.
dance.
Yeah, it's for this is for specifically the people that donated for the street dance to raise that $9,500. That's what I'm specifically asking for, the postage for that part.
I still think it's the same type of stuff that you were that the city was approached with paying for, the light honey bucket thing, the,
Well, Cindy
Those supplies.
Hossie paid for the.
but in general,
Yeah, I know what
the
you're
list
saying.
that we got or that was presented, I would think that that is in line with those other things.
So it's your opinion that instead of the city paying for the postage for their own property that people donated to take that from what will go towards the grant? Because those are two separate things.
We just paid $350.
Not towards the grant. That was to put on the festivities. Those are two separate things.
So the thank you notes are for the festivities, right?
For people that donated towards the project, yes.
And we paid $350 to pay for things towards the festivities.
The thank yous weren't included in that. I see what you're saying.
But you have extra money left
That
over.
was just to put it on, not for the after of thanking people.
How many thank you notes do you anticipate?
It's almost 100 right now. You know,
Okay.
they come in. I got 2 more in today that were from that.
I move that the city make up to $50 available for postal expenses for thank you notes related to the dance.
All right, a motion by Councilmember Davenport. Is there a second? No second. Okay, motion fails. So I would say that that's the answer.
And that was our idea to do that, regardless. But I was just curious about the postage part. That because I heard different things about that from different people. I said all I could do is ask.
Yep.
Okay.
So I'm fine with that.
Okay.
You get stuck as the messenger.
Yeah, you know how it goes.
All right. Public comments for sitting around for 3 hours and 7 minutes.
I'm good, and I think if I've already expressed or took part, appreciate that, being part of it, so.
So is our wastewater treatment person gonna get the paperwork into the state this month? And did it go through last month after?
Yes,
she
it
It
submitted
did late,
It
yeah.
did.
2
It did.
days late, but it was okay.
Yes.
It was clear of errors and all that.
Yes, and so my assumption, I need to talk to that person. I need to talk to our contract operator about the whole situation, but my assumption is that, I mean, up until this month, it's been going, over the last 12 months, it's been, 12-ish months, 11
So
months.
So they accepted the report, it was just 2 days late.
Can the,
But again, we're on the rate watch list.
I got
Yeah,
that.
yes. So,
Can
Still
the-
think we have a pretty good argument. I understand.
no, we can talk to that person. That's,
I think
yeah, no,
a reasonable person
Can-
would forego the fine.
can the due date for submitting the report be changed to somewhere between the 5th and the 10th? So that there's,
Amend the contract.
Yeah, we don't
Make-
even specify
To
that.
now put that stipulation in there.
yeah,
we can, the contract with our person, we can amend to see those things.
okay.
That also means that Scott has to get her the information by that point.
Well, it's a month in between, no matter what.
No, it's
so
15 days.
From the 1st to the 15th.
Yeah.
from the 1st to the 15th. Well, would that,
2 people got to play ball to make sure that everything gets in by
is that
11:59 on the
something
15th.
that you can ask if he's okay with doing?
Oh, sure. I can
No.
ask.
So we need to have some sort of
Fail-safe.
cushion.
Make it due on the 10th or something.
Yeah, no,
That's
right.
what I'm
Yes, I
working
understand.
toward, yeah.
I'm full in support of having it filed on the 2nd. So you have 13 days to fix the
Right,
errors.
right.
I've made that very clear in our meetings that would be my preference.
We make duplicates. so
Well-
instead of-
But
Mr. Mayor,
yeah, I can say stuff, but I don't wield a big stick. Apparently, I don't. My voice doesn't carry very far.
I would like to know more about how the DMRs are generated. Should I take that up with Scott?
That's where you would start. I don't know. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Scott reads all the meters down at the wastewater plant. That information then he takes to Cassie over at AAA.
I see.
Then she inputs.
and she inputs them and,
I'll talk to Scott. I'd like to know more about the process.
No, it's For sure.
Move to adjourn.
All right, motion made it to 10:10.
Second. Oh, she
All
got
right,
Levi.
all in favor,
behind.
say aye.
Aye.
I
Okay,
My goal is always to cut him off before he even gets it out of his mouth.
thank you.
Usually you're successful. You're snoozing over this.
I wasn't snoozing. I'm just my brain checked out at 10:02. So as long as it carries me home.
Yep.
oh so frustrated.
You're gonna go up and pass out?
Staring at paperwork all day long.
My partner in
changed
crime
our-
at work
we changed our
was putting his
insurance
top
at
on
work.
his Jeep.
So we had to all sit there and
Decided they didn't want any help, and he's got a hernia. So the guy at work,
And it's not
I'm
done
back
yet.
to a one-man
I
show
call my doctors
at my job right now.
take the plan.
He's
Unfortunately, Terry
get-
Levi, the
he can
human
ride around the pickup with me, but I get out and
is
go
a
to do
machine
something.
designed to turn.
He actually,
food
that's
into
funny that you say
paper.
that because the guy that I work with is going in on the 16th.
My great grandfather was an
to meet the
insurance
surgeon.
agent. He said that insurance.
Maybe they're going to the same place. So
It's right up there with the soup.
after hours,
He was
Bunny,
the insurance agent for the Spokane Indians baseball team.
I'm available.
Dad said he
Obviously, I
used to tell all
can't
sorts of
Friday,
stories about how horrible
Saturday,
insurance
Sunday
was.
to do stuff that's needed
I'll see y'all later.
during work day, obviously.
Another water leak up where Jess still
As long as the city's okay with me doing things with how that works, like legally, like insurance-wise, absolutely. More than happy.
Jess Silver or
Good night, everybody.
Terry
See it, Peter?
Terry
So did Tim leave?
holes that he had open up there. He'd like them filled. I don't know. I don't know.
Left.
Get him to.
Nope, he's there.
And when Keith is gone,
Can we schedule something?
Have you spoke with Justin on that?
about, not about the two ladies incidents, but
No, about the person in general. Have you heard anything more from Scott? 'Cause he said. Okay, I was just curious.
he said what?
If Scott had said any more about working here.
At this point.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
But
Right.
I'm really tempted to.
Let me see if I can't. I think Justin's gonna be the toughest one.
What do we got to do to fix it? What? Well, I know that's an open-ended question, but are there some bullet points, maybe, or
Let's say there are some major ones. Two of them happened today. And, no, it's psych.
yeah?
It's not. Talks back.
That's all good. Well,
Data.
compare binoculars, I look out our kitchen window and look at it.
Funny.
But you don't know the name.